You are listening to a True North Eager Beaver media podcast. The True North Eager Beaver podcasts are proudly brought to you by our founding sponsors, the Miss V Mysteries from Corvid Moon Publishing, your source for science fiction, fantasy, and cozy mysteries featuring a broad diversity of characters. CanadianTarot.com, your uniquely Canadian online eclectic tarot community and forum, and the Peppermaster, hot pepper sauces made from fresh farm ingredients to thrill your taste buds and expand your mind. Well, good morning and hello, kids, and welcome to Season 3 and episode number 75 of the Daily Beaver here on the Crier Media Network. Today, recording date is Monday, March 13th, 2023, and we're starting early with the morning pour. There we go. Somebody's getting started early because he knows what's coming. We need to be prepared and wide awake, eyes wide open. So it's going to be another wonderful day here at the Beaver Lodge. I'm your host, the Eager Beaver, pronouns he, him. Hey, Mr. Beaver A. And with me, as always, is my pal, my buddy, my brother, Mr. Grizzly. It's always nice to see you. Of course, a big thank you goes to our podcast's founding sponsors, the Peppermaster, the Miss V Mysteries from Corvid Moon Publishing, and CanadianTarot.com. Today we have a Monday morning bite, and if all goes according to plan, and so far we think it will, because we've heard from our guest this morning, we do have a wonderful guest. You know who it is because we told you about it before the weekend, and we've been talking about it, and people are very, very excited about this. Extremely excited. I mentioned it on our Twitter feed, and it instantly became my top trending tweet. Instantly, like by a mile.
No surprise.
I even went to see a play this weekend, and while I was there, somebody stopped me and said, "I heard you're going to have this person on your show. I love her." So the word has gotten around. So I don't know. Maybe this might be our most popular episode ever. You never know, because of the quality of the guest. Well, you know what? Before we do that, let's talk to Mr. Grizzly. Say good morning to him and ask him how his mental health is today. Good morning, Mr. Grizzly.
Hey, Mr. Beaver. I'm tired. Have been for the last number of days, as you well know. One of those wonderful ancillary benefits of having depression is that even though the medication keeps me from despair and I feel happy, like I'm in a happy, good place. I'm physically exhausted all the time. I spent the whole weekend in bed. I was just exhausted. I didn't wake up till 2 in the afternoon on Saturday. That's how tired I was. Of course, we did go rather late, and I did drink a lot of whiskey the night before, which that
Yes.
adds to it. But I got up and I was zonked yesterday. Spent the whole day in bed, just exhausted. So that's one of those side effects. The medication does keeps me in a happy place, but it doesn't do 100% of everything, right? So
Yeah.
just keep rolling along. How about yourself? You sounds like you had a good weekend. Mine was
I had a
eventful.
wonderful Yeah, I had a wonderful weekend. I too got a late start on the Saturday because we stayed up. I had I actually had only intended to come in for about like half an hour just to say hey, and then like James left and was like, well,
Yeah,
we
we
can't
were just
just
getting
we can't
rolling.
just like leave it like that.
Yeah, exactly. So that's why, and then we went really long. Well, and I need to check in with him, find out if he got in to see the doctor because I was a little worried about him.
Yeah. And then I passed my second win, so I was I was up all night. So I woke up
Yeah.
at I think I woke up 20 minutes before you did that day because I only got to bed around 6 before I got tired again. Yeah, and then like I said, we went to go see a play and just a nice, quiet, domestic little weekend. We were thinking of going to Ottawa, and we decided, you know what, we've been traveling a lot lately. Let's just stay home and
Well, then you're here next
catch up
Saturday
weekend.
too, right?
Yes, exactly. And I'm coming back up. So yeah, it was a wonderful weekend. I have to say, I had a lot of good time. Plus, the Briar was on, so that makes me happy, and get to watch curling. And
I hear
the
you.
Indian Wells tournament tennis is on. At one point yesterday, I think I was at home and I had like curling on one screen because I have two monitors and tennis on the other one. I guess, and then I would pause the curling while there was a tennis point, and then in between points, then I play the curling.
You need more TVs. You need more TVs is what you need.
I need a DVR for the computer. Is what I need.
Yeah. Well,
Oh
so
man.
why don't
Well,
we?
Kit,
Why don't we? I was going
yeah,
to say
yeah, yeah.
let's kick
Yep,
this off and
yep,
bring our
yep.
guest on in.
Hey,
She's in
hold
the
on.
green
Yep,
room.
yep.
Yeah,
Let me
and
do that. Let me know, Kits,
uh,
because there's been a lot going on over the course of the weekend, and like I said, we'd love to tell you about all the good stuff that happened to Canada at the Oscars, but we don't have time for that, and we'd love to talk about Skippy making time in the airport to show us a close up of his nose hairs while blaming the
Prime
water.
Minister for weather.
And tell him that we don't have time to see his nasty. He needs to put that shit away, but we don't got time for that. And we'd like to tell you about all the Canadians that did us proud on all the sports avenues, but we ain't got time for that.
We ain't got time for that.
We ain't got time for that because we have a very, 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 very special guest. Oh my God, I'm so excited. I'm so excited. And we're not going to wait any longer. Our guest, if you are anywhere on Twitter, you know her.
Or TikTok.
Or TikTok. Yes. She is fantastic. She is fabulous. Her Twitter feed and TikTok feed is full of substance.
Positive
Um,
substance.
yes. Probably the guest we've had on the show that most definitely has better hair than me.
Oh,
Just saying.
you're jealous, aren't you?
Not jealous, envious.
I'm very
Because
envious for obvious reasons, right?
because I'm glad she has it, but you know what? I wouldn't mind having it too.
Well, let's bring her on in. Let's bring her on
All
in.
right.
I want to get this show rolling. I'm
All
excited.
right.
Okay,
So
here we
you
go.
know her as Unlearn16 on TikTok. Please, kids, give a round of applause and welcome to the Beaver Lodge, Joanna Johnson, Unlearn16.
Look,
Hey,
now I wore a hat. Now
I
I
know.
now I feel like I gotta go do my hair. Guys, it is first of all, thank you so much for having me on. Second of all, why is it so early?
Well, we're a
It's
morning show.
I know.
it is so like I don't film any TikToks this early. Look, it's puffy, it's a situation. I'm like in the bathroom, like all freezing cold water. I've already had a cup. I'm like, I should have had a thing. You have a whole coffee cup right beside you. You guys have, oh my God, it's a carafe.
Oh, yes.
He's got a craft. Yes.
That's amazing. How are you
Um,
guys doing? Thank you so much for having me on. I appreciate it. I am upset. I didn't do my hair this morning, but for the love of God,
That's okay. You pull
it
off
was
that
too
that's
ball
early,
cap
guys.
better than
It
I
was
ever
just
could.
too early.
it's an unfabulous hour. Okay, I need to ask because this is like obviously, um, how long does it take to do that? Because I mean, I'm sure you have it down by now, but
My hair,
I
it's
can't
simple,
imagine that
simple.
takes forever.
Mhm. Very quick. You know what's so funny? If my grandma would ever let me film her in the morning, my grandma wakes up with my hairstyle. I think it's
Oh,
genetic. My
nice.
grandma has short hair, and as she's gotten older and she doesn't want to fuss with it too much, I've talked her into a bit of a taper at the back. She likes it. But my grandma kind of sleeps like this, you know what I mean? Like so her hair naturally
The side hop.
is where people ask where I got it from, and just recently I've come to terms with I think it's her. I think it's just what she how she rocks her hair. But it takes me a minute. Quick blow dry, a little bit of you got to straighten it though. That's the thing. You
Ah,
got to have a straightening iron, and then a little bit of product. It's
Yeah.
fantastic because my barber, who's this young kid in Woodbridge, right next to my tattoo shop, so many people ask me where I get my hair done or how or whatever. And he's like, Joe, he's like, I really have if there's a lesbian within I don't know, 50-kilometer radius, they're coming to my barbershop to see Anthony. And I'm like, that's excellent.
That's
um,
awesome.
it's absolutely fantastic. Now, I know you as a teacher
Mhm.
because
Yes.
when I see your videos, that's the first thing.
Ooh.
It was the first thing I noticed, and it's what I've seen more consistently. But you talk about other things. I saw your Super Bowl video, and I I am your partner.
I, uh,
I so recognized myself in that one.
and guys, she wins every year by her um, team choice methodology, which is cute
Mhm.
outfit. She chooses the cute outfit, and I choose the team. Usually, I choose. Yeah, I mean, I'm not a huge football person, but I'll choose the area I like. I usually always choose the underdog. I just do. It's who I
Mhm.
am.
Mm.
She always wins. Very upsetting. So
How does the
upsetting.
person who knows nothing about sports always win the pool?
Nothing. She knows nothing. She didn't know how many what a touchdown was worth. She doesn't know how she's like, "Why do they keep going on and off the field?" Like, and then she won,
Why the
guys.
substitutions? Yeah, that's.
And
I got a buddy of mine who he's originally from Manchester, and he came here, and I said, "You got to come to a Red Blacks game." You know, I live here in Ottawa, and I had season tickets, so I brought him to a game. And he's like, "What's with all the bloody substitutions? I don't get." I'm like, "It's not rugby, man.
he's a rugby
There's
guy, yeah.
he's a rugby guy, so
Yeah.
he just couldn't comprehend it. I finally he understands the game now, and he became a huge fan. But it was funny. He's like, "What? I don't. How? There's too many players."
Think about that. Like, first of all, rugby's just a better game. Let's be honest. It's a better sport. But think about you go for unless you're injured, you go for 80 minutes.
Hmm.
Very
Yeah.
few breakdowns, very few timeouts. Like, you know what I mean? Very like 80 minutes
Well, that's why the
all
World Cup of
in.
Rugby takes so long to play. It takes like 4 months because, I mean, each match there's injuries. There's tons
Yep.
of
Oh,
injuries, but
yeah.
they don't admit to it, right?
Yeah,
Because
sure. Just play through.
exactly.
Ignore the
So,
bone. It's
oh yeah,
fine.
no, no, it's okay.
Wrap
It's
it
okay.
up.
Walk it off.
Tape
Walk
it
it
off.
off.
Somebody get some duct tape. Just put a stick over top of it. I played rugby when I was young. When I was in high school a little bit, my mom begged me not to play because when I was a kid, it was like the first year that girls had rugby at my high
Oh,
school.
okay.
And
Oh,
my mom was like, I was always the size I am, maybe a bit stronger when I was a kid. And my mom's like, can you not, like any other sport, Joe, but can you not play this? And I was like, determined to play rugby. And of course, within the first season, by the last game, I'd broken my collarbone. But that was because, and I say this all the time, rugby, you can get, hurt, but not necessarily injured.
Hmm.
That's how, unless,
mm-hmm.
unless people are breaking the rules.
Right.
So the girl that tackled me to break my collarbone tackled me here,
That's an
illegal,
illegal.
Yeah.
Yeah, completely.
illegal, and I dealt with that. But as I got older, so I went to university and then I started playing for the Toronto Scottish, which is like a very reputable, amazing club team in Toronto. And when I started playing after university, I remember a friend invited me and I was like on the pitch and I hadn't played in a long time, but these were like rugby girls, right? Like, and I'm like, I'm not ready for this. And in my head, we were doing conditioning. I said, I'm just going to keep up with the girl next to me. That's it, Joe. Just in your head, you're going to keep up to her. And we did like suicides, but on a rugby pitch, if you could imagine that. So like, right. I thought I was going to die, literally. And I kept up to this girl, but beside me. And at the end of it all, Shelly, my friend, came up and she goes, Joe, that was awesome. And the coach is like, you're amazing. I didn't know how good in shape you so in shape, blah, blah, blah. And in my soul, I'm like, this is how I die. I don't know. I'm going to have to call my mom. I hadn't even tackled I hadn't even touched a ball, but I'm going to die. And I'm like, what? I go, well, I was just trying to keep up. She's like, yeah, but you kept up with Maureen McMahon. I'm like, okay. She's like, she's Canada team captain. She's been capped 7 times. She is our physical goal. I'm like, oh,
You picked
you
the wrong person.
Before I decided she was the person I need to run against. But I remember playing at that level, like against Canada team players and everything. And I remember getting hit by a girl who played for provincially for Quebec. And guys, if I close my eyes, I can still feel that hit right now.
Oh yeah.
I wasn't injured, but like I said, she broke something in me that maybe isn't physical.
The fearlessness you need.
It was so hard, so perfect that it just knocked a little bit of my soul out, I think.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's a great game.
That happened to my Beaver sweetie. He's team sports was never his thing. And then an opportunity to play rugby happened. And that always wanted to be one of the guys sort of feeling. So he went to play, and I think he tried like for 3-4 years and broke his finger, broke his nose, dislocated his shoulder, got cleated.
He must have been in the scrum. See, there's 2 kinds of rugby players.
Yep.
People that are in the scrum, which to me is insanity. And then me, I'm on the line. I'm not anywhere near that situation.
Yeah. The scrum is where the injuries happen for the most part. Because,
and those broken fingers and usually
especially
it's incidental. And the shoulders tend to go and stuff like that.
Yeah, a lot of my buddies played rugby internationally, and they said one of the things is that the big difference between rugby and football, well, rugby football, of course, but a North American style or Canadian style football is that in Canadian style and North American style, NFL, CFL style football, they hit, they don't tackle. Whereas in rugby, you actually tackle. So there's a lot less injuries on the field of play when it comes to that. I'm like, no, you're absolutely right. You're absolutely, and because you're not wearing any padding whatsoever, you're a lot more conscious of how you're tackling the person.
That's true.
Because you can get hurt just as badly, right?
Yeah.
So,
in the NFL, it's like you use your head as a battering ram, which you have huge concussions, huge neck injuries. Whereas the number one thing you learn in rugby is lead with your shoulder, not your head.
Right.
That's right.
Because otherwise you're coming out. That was my first time coaching, my first year. Coaching a bunch of girls how to play rugby, and nobody has fear when you start learning rugby. You'll get an injury and you'll have a healthy sense of fear, right? A healthy sense of trepidation. Anyways, and my rule was don't lead with your head, shoulder. So they're playing and they're about 3/4 the way through, and I'm across the pitch, and I all of a sudden hear this crack, like everybody stopped, like everybody went. And she had led with her head, and she lifted her head up from the ruck, and she had like Harry Potter, not to mention anything controversial, but you know how he has that whatever in his orb, it's really little. It's like that little star thing or lightning bolt. She had it, but it went from her hairline here. Like it was like the length of her forehead. And then guys, it was like Carrie, like blood pouring down her face.
My.
And I went
vascular.
Right. Exactly. We quickly got, something wrapped and duct taped on her head, and off we went to the hospital. She was fine. I passed out. but
Yeah.
whatever.
I'd have been right with you. I couldn't get past grade 11 bio because I just couldn't cut that frog.
So much blood, guys.
I just could not. I wanted to ask you, was teaching always sort of your calling? You felt that that's what it was, or how did you fall into it?
I'm gonna, people ask me that. I think when I was a kid, I watched my uncle. My uncle, Ray is an amazing physics teacher, up north, and I remember watching him teach and being blown away by how he could make something that to 90% of us is so hard and difficult to
Mhm.
understand, and, just like I mean, it's a theory of everything for crying out loud, and he would make it the kids who loved physics, cool, who didn't like physics still wanna take his class because 'cause they're like, he talks about the physics of Superman and the physics and they were all in, and I remember watching that being so struck by that dynamic and that kind of, you know, classroom banter, and then I went on, like, it wasn't like I decided to be a teacher, because initially I went all the way out to BC to be a marine biologist because I saw Free Willy.
Wow.
True story. I lasted 1 semester because
It's not an easy one.
chemistry and I, not friends,
Oh.
shockingly enough. I thought marine biology meant no chemistry. I was
No.
mistaken. So
Mm.
anyways, I went out there, I played volleyball, I, did the sport thing out there, and then I came home and I was so, I didn't do well, obviously. I was so taken aback by how I didn't do well because school had always come fairly naturally to me, and I was
Mhm.
so disheartened and terrified and just been like, "I'm not going to school. I'm done."
Mm.
And
Mm. Mm.
my mom to this day, I don't know how she handled that because in my family, it was like, you went to elementary, high school, university. It's not a choice. You just off you go.
Mhm.
And then when I decided that and I had an uncle that was a cop and I'm like, "I'm gonna be a cop." And he's like, "You could be a cop in like 10 seconds because we need women, you're smart, you're this, you're that." And my mom must have been sitting there going,
Oh,
like, "How
no.
do I parent through this?" Because if I tell her no, I was too old to tell me no. But even if I tell her no in her state, what's that gonna do? And my mom just gently said, "Listen, you can apply, you can get in shape, you can do all those things for the police. Just apply to university, just as well." And eventually when the whatever wore off from university, the stress of it all, I then really wanted to go back. It was a fear thing, right? I wanted to go
Mhm.
back to university, but I was afraid they weren't gonna take me because my marks were garbage, and, I became very good friends with the admission officer woman at Western University. Back in the day, you got a person on the phone. Her
Oh,
name
wow.
was Ellen.
Right.
Very good friends. Ellen and I, like this. I said, "I'm sending all my stuff." She goes, "Joanna, don't worry." At some point, she was, like, coaching me through it, and then I got in, and then when I went to Western, I didn't know what I wanted to do. I just knew that I wanted to take courses that the course interests me, that I was passionate about.
Right.
That was it. That was my only there was no end game for me. So I took politics, I took, English, which I'd never read a full book in high school because I was a little dyslexic in high school, not that I knew it, but I hated it, and for some reason, I'm like, "I'm taking English." And I took a few other courses where they were very sort of societally focused. I took like a mythology, a journalism, a whatever, and I just kept taking it. And then by as soon as I took politics, I'm like, this is what I love.
Okay.
And then I kept taking that. I did my master's. I thought I'd do my PhD, but I think by PhD, I'm like, I'm a little tired now of school. And I thought I'll do teachers college. If I don't like it, okay,
Mhm.
I'll go
Mhm.
back to school. Right? Like if I don't like teaching.
Mhm.
And I don't know if you can decide to be a teacher before you actually step into that classroom and see what that feels like. I don't know if you can. Like, I think a lot of people do because that's how we make our choices in this world, right? We get on a path and we're like, that's what I'm gonna do. But I think teaching, when you step into the room, you're either a teacher or you're not,
Mhm.
and that's it. And I realized as soon as I started doing it that that's what I not to say there hasn't been days where I'm like, I need to be done this now. But that's it. I stepped in and I went, that's what I do. And when people say, what else, what else would you do if you weren't a teacher? I said,
Mm.
I'd be a teacher, just differently,
Mhm.
on podcasts or in speaking engagements or workshops or political events, and they'll say, why aren't you a politician? I'd say, because I don't lie well. I
Mm.
don't guys, I don't compromise well. And that's a bad trait. I am not good, at making deals, at compromising on much of
Mhm.
anything, especially if I see the justice or the usefulness of the idea. I'm like,
Mhm.
I'm not good at that. And politics is no matter who you are, it's all that.
It's all compromise. Yeah,
It's all
constantly.
compromise,
Yep.
right? It's
Yeah.
all watered down versions of good ideas in
Yep.
order for the other side to get their, and
Yep.
so yeah.
It's definitely not a game for just anybody to play in because, as you say, you have to compromise so much, and sometimes,
Mhm.
reminds me of a story of somebody I met many years ago who was going into political science. This was at a Canada Day party, going into political science. A year later, I saw him at the same party. So the year I meet him, and he says, "I'm going into poli sci, and I'm going to change the world." And his eyes were big, and he
Mm.
couldn't wait to. And a year later, his soul was gone
Right.
because he realized that you have to sell your soul to make deals with people that you wouldn't want to sit in the same room with just to compromise enough to get something minutely so
Yeah.
it's not for everybody. It's a tough game. I think you got to be a
Mhm.
little bit crazy to enter into it, to be honest.
And I just feel as though it's interesting because I've had this bit of a run-in with this. I did a video about snowplows, heaven help me.
Right.
It really has
Hmm.
shoved me somewhere I wasn't necessarily
Yep.
excited to go. But what I realized very quickly, two things. Number one, politicians decide on their agenda and they don't really they've decided what's going to make it them look good rather than what they need to do a lot of the times because they need to
Hmm.
get reelected. I understand the course of the game. And um, when it comes to this kind of politics, I also have an issue with the fact that, I mean, obviously I'm on TikTok all the time or whatever, and they're talking about, and they've said that all politicians can't have social media. They can't speak directly to issues,
Mhm.
really, right?
Yeah.
You'll get fired, you'll get whatever, you'll get kicked out of your party, you'll blah, blah, blah. And I'm just like, I'm sorry. You have the most direct, amazing route for
Hmm.
people to know what their politicians think. You have told them they can't do it. See, I would go the other way. If I was making the rules, and again, whatever people have issues with TikTok, I think they're silly.
Hmm.
Personally, whatever social media we're talking about, they should have to post once a day on one idea they have. 365 days a year. If you can't post a 3-minute video on something that matters to you that day, don't be a politician.
Mhm.
I don't think
Mhm.
it should be you can. Like, first of all, they ban them. I think you should have to.
Mhm.
You're
Well, it
gonna
would
find
be
out real quick.
engaging, right?
What's that?
It would be much more engaging with their constituents. It's a great way to
Would
communicate.
Yes. You
Yep.
could ask people could ask questions. Now, is it still gonna be curated? Of course.
Hmm.
Yep.
People say to me all the time, "Joe, why are you never angry on my TikTok?" I say, "I don't post the angry ones, guys." Like, when
Mm.
I'm really angry,
Yep.
A, it's
That's the first draft that you scrap.
I don't come off as intelligent. That's no fun. Um, but B, I just wait. Like, I'll make the
Yep.
TikTok, and then I'll wait until I'm in a healthy zone of
Mm.
of impassioned, but no longer angry to the point where I'm not gonna be able to. And the
Yep.
same is gonna be true for politicians, right? But the notion that we ban them from that is the most ridiculous thing I've
Yep.
ever heard. Absolutely asinine.
Well,
Politics is about people. So if you
communication with
cut
people.
access off to people, what's the point?
And
Well,
look
the
at this
argument
access.
is it's out of China and this and that and the other thing, and I'm like, yeah, but all their servers for North America are in the United States of America, so
Guys,
you're being
I
ridiculous.
am so, so tired of people talking about other countries as though we, Canada and the United States, whatever spy. First of all, you know why they're spying? To sell me a better hat. And you know what?
Yeah.
Go right ahead, China. I don't care. Every time I talk about something and then I stream through Instagram, I get an ad for it. So Meta's doing it, Twitter's doing it. Of course, Facebook, TikTok, of course they all are. But they're all doing it to sell us stuff. So you know what? If you don't like that, cool, then you're gonna have to ban all of them.
Yes.
But to think somehow that the Chinese government is any more insidious than Elon Musk is racist and asinine.
Yes, agreed. I
Just
completely
asinine.
agree.
You know? Oh, well, there's the and they'll talk about these other countries. The only reason they're talking such garbage about China is because China learned how to do capitalism better.
Yep.
And what I mean by that is they're still allowed to treat a lot of their population like, well, wage slaves. And just because the United States, they've developed unions and the companies can no longer do that, so they have to pay a fair wage. All of a sudden, China's coming into the game and they're, back at that starting point, and they're giving us cheaper products that we're buying. That's it. That's why people are mad. Stop it with the human rights. If it was human rights, we'd be equally mad at Saudi Arabia. Where's the outrage? It's not about human rights. Give me a break.
Right.
It's about
Anyways,
cheap
I don't think
goods.
they're gonna I don't think they're gonna ban it, to be honest with you, but that's just me.
Well, I
Probably
know
not
that
outright.
no, MPs can't use it anymore, but outright, there's no way they could ban it outright.
Well,
They'd have to.
they can use it. They just can't use it on any government issued device.
That's right. Yes. Yeah.
And here's my question. Are they allowed to download Instagram on their government issued device?
No,
I
I
would
don't
assume
believe
no.
so.
Well, so why is this a big statement?
Yeah.
Yep.
Why is this a different statement than everybody's had a company computer that you can't do anything on it.
Right.
Right.
Right?
Right.
Like everything's blocked. You can't download anything because they've set an administrator control. Isn't that where it all so this statement
Right.
of like you can't download TikTok, I'm like, I'm sorry, I thought that was always the rule for
I would have
everything.
assumed so as well.
On a government device. You can have your own phone and put whatever you want on there.
That's
right?
fine. Yeah.
Yeah.
Strange stuff.
You sorry, hold on. Pardon me. You mentioned what you had done in that video you did about you missed a spot, and then you did a video afterwards, and I would like to show it because you talk about your mom, and your mom so rocks.
Oh, she's mad right now.
All right,
yeah.
Mr. Grizzly, if you would put it up.
Sure thing.
Oh, wow. Look at your technological
still. Our video is kind of blown up a little bit. It's getting a lot of attention. It got the mayor to come out and fix the problem, which was the #1 drive of the video. It's also got a lot of news attention. So CP24 recently picked up the phone, called me, did a lovely interview, and then plastered it everywhere. So all these people are there now calling me and congratulating me on my video. Anna took the video because she wanted my mom to read it, and she texted it to my mom as a link. I didn't even know my mom knew how to click on a link. Text it to her so she could read it. My mom wanted to be proud too, so she read it, thought it was a fantastic thing, and then she did what I didn't know my mom could do, which was she checked the comments. I didn't know I needed to warn her about it because I never knew she even knew where the comments were. She doesn't even know there's comments on this thing, right? I try to protect her from that kind of vitriol, especially directed towards me. And she lost her mind. She called me downstairs to her apartment. I came downstairs. She goes, "You have to address this. How dare people talk like that to you?" I say, "Mom, these are my bread and butter. These kind of idiotic statements, I match them with wit and sarcasm and a quick little, and it built my platform to what it is today. I love these morons, right?" Mom said, "I don't care. You need to address it," to the point where she printed out all of the worst ones and circled them for me so I could address them in this TikTok video. I said, "Mom, whatever you think I should be doing." Here we go. Maverick. You said, "Bet she has pronouns in her social media bio." #1, that's not the burn you think it is. #2, if you did any of your own research, you would have found out that I don't have my pronouns in my bio. All I require, you can call me whatever you want, just compliment my hair. Moving on. The next person, MMPP, how to protect your anonymity. This individual says, "In our area, we help our neighbors shovel and dig out. You could just sit there and film videos and wait for the city to take care, or you could do something yourself." If you would have watched the whole video, you would have got to the end. And in the end, I say, I'm going to go pick up my shovel and help dig him out to the best of my ability. But, who has the kind of stamina for 3 whole minutes? I understand. You also say, interesting how people say hire more and at the same time don't want to pay any taxes. Funny, if you read the article, maybe you can't read, I don't know. If you read the article, you would have seen that's how I left the article, saying it's up to the citizens to decide what services they want and what they're willing to pay for. That's what a democracy is. Back to grade 8 with you so you can figure that part out. Next one, Johnny Diggs says, homeschool your kids. Johnny, I wonder what kind of academic accolades you're bringing to your children when you homeschool them. But don't worry, I know that eventually they'll get on social media, they'll find me, and they'll get a real education. So you do whatever you think you need to do, sir. Sean says he's an annoying little boy. Funny. Naz says Justin Bieber really let himself go. Listen, my hair is better than Justin. My skin is better than Justin. I might not have talent, but how dare you minimize this aesthetic? And lastly, that's an effing teacher. What'd she teach? Listen, if you can't run it through grammar check, please don't tweet at me. Otherwise, I'm going to give you my mom's number and she'll take care of you. So my snowplow video is
that. I love it. And the thing is like no stutter. That just comes right out.
I have a big mouth, guys.
I'm a big fan of. Have you ever watched Designing Women?
Yes.
I'm a Julia Sugarbaker fan.
Designing Women.
Yeah, Julia Sugarbaker, right there.
That's a huge compliment.
Oh yeah, that's brilliant. Love it.
It's so funny because when I do those rants, I like to do them in one take, and if they don't come naturally, like usually I'll have to do 1 or 2 takes. I mostly run out of time. That's my problem. So if I have to do more than 1 take, it's because I got to that 3-minute mark. Heaven help me, they've given me 10 minutes now, which is just. I shouldn't have 10 minutes.
The world is not ready. The world's not
10
ready.
minutes. Can you imagine? I wouldn't be able to breathe. I'd need a bottle of water or something beside me.
3 minutes.
Well, again, if it doesn't come within the first, like if I'm messing up a lot, I'm like, I'm just not going to do it because I find that if I can't get the words, if they don't flow properly in my head, I don't know if there's a lie in it or an inauthenticity about it. It's too produced and it doesn't flow, so I just don't do it. That's pretty much how I decide to do those rants. Because I have quite a few sort of saved in drafts, and I'm just like, but it doesn't flow like I want it to. And if it doesn't flow, maybe I'm not understanding what I want to say. Maybe I don't believe 100% of what I'm saying or why I'm saying it. So I just leave it alone for a while and I'll come back to it and try it later.
Yeah, I've been known to have a rant or two when I'm at the height of my anger, right, you might say. And sometimes it's successful and sometimes it's not. I can get on a bit of a roll sometimes. But what I loved is the way you addressed it. It's each individual. It's like, and the thing for me, because I have pronouns in my bio. And in case you're not aware, cis, het, boring, old, white man, right? Excellent. This is what I am. I'm just a mediocre white male. But I always get the idiots on Twitter who are like, oh yeah, he's got his pronouns. I'm like, oh, and you think that's a burn, number one. And number two, why are you threatened by my pronouns?
Well, we know why they're threatened. That's an easy answer, right? That's an easy answer. But yeah, I mean, Twitter is filled with that, eh? Oh, like when I came across to Twitter, I've had a Twitter account forever, but probably for about 5 years, I had no idea how to use it. So it just existed there.
Yep. Same with me for a few years.
And probably about a year, maybe a year and a half ago, but maybe a year, I'm like, okay, I'm going to give it a go. I'm going to see if I can start doing something with it. So whatever. But the anger on that app, and I'm going to say it's the anonymity, right? It's the perceived anonymity, and it's such an incredible echo chamber. Whereas TikTok, it can be an echo chamber, but you're still going to see videos about cats. Like it's just different. Whereas on TikTok, when people like demean it and they'll say, oh, well, it's just stupid. It's dancing. It's this, it's that. I'm like, yeah, that's what makes it fun. We don't need to negate all fun, for crying out loud. We don't need everything to have such an incredible philosophical and political value, it can be entertainment. But Twitter, it's like they have no room for that.
No.
It's just all politics all the time. So you get people and the pronoun thing and the Matt Walshes and Shapiros, and even though I've been blocked by Peterson, the Petersons of the world. I mean, these individuals, and predominantly men, are just using it to bolster such incredible uneducated, misrepresentative angst and anger that it's really sad to watch unfold. And I'll engage with them all the time. And people are like, why are you wasting your time? They're not, I said, no, I don't care about Matt Walsh. I don't care about Peterson. What I care about is the 3,000 comments, and there could be 1 or 2 or 10 people in it that and for the most part, even though I can be, I'll put a hun in there or whatever, for the most part, I'll say, wait a minute, here's the flaw in this argument. Or what about this? Or what about that? Right? Like Peterson blocked me because he posted whatever. I said something back. I don't even remember. And he's like, oh, of course you'd say that with a name like Unlearn. This was the comment that got me blocked. I said, I'm sorry. You have no stereotypes or prejudice that have been sort of, socialized into your head that you think you have to unlearn. You're perfectly an objective person who doesn't have to unlearn some of the things that we were taught as kids. It's amazing considering how, you're even older than I am, and I have a lot to unlearn. Blocked. That's the comment.
That's the comment.
He's a weak man, a very weak-minded man. And he's the dumb guy, smart guy, right? Number one. Number two, I tell people all the time, he's not that smart. And he has more mental health issues than I do. And he's not dealing with them.
No.
He's not dealing with them.
Of course not.
No.
He's found a way to channel, he's had, if you listen to his history, I mean, and some of it's not nice. And I wish that he would get a different kind of help. But now what he's done is he's channeled it almost as though he thinks this kind of obsessive, which he is, obsessive, sort of theocratic. And I do use the word theocratic because he really does rely on religion, even though he claims not to be religious. Theocratic drives in order to protect what once was, irrespective of it being good. It's like everybody who feels that their life is spinning out of control, what do? We hold on to what we used to know and what makes us feel grounded.
Yep.
And he is doing it to such an incredible degree that there's a whole world of people that support him because they feel as though they have no grounding. And when you talk about words like, cis, and we talk about gender, and we talk about sort of blowing up a lot of that, it makes sense to me. And that's why I don't meet it with a lot of anger. It makes sense to me that people are shook. Sex and the associated gender norms have been the building blocks, the foundation, the basis of everything we do as a people and a society for generations, right? So for us to be saying, let's say I say, well, it's all garbage. Right. Gender as an expression of sex and a direct link to how you were born it's all socialization. It's all nurture. We can blow it all up. Let's do it now. The Hindus had it right 4,000, 5,000 years ago. Gender's a delusion. Let's move on. But to those people, the comfort they feel in knowing I'm a woman, this is how I dress, this is how I'm treated, this is how I walk through the world, gives them a sense of identity, which is hysterical because Peterson says he hates all identity politics, unless it has to do with men and women. Yeah. Then those aren't identity politics. That just is what it is. But nonetheless, but it's their stability. So when I come at that, I try my best not to come at it sideways or hard. I try to come at it respectfully, but on Twitter, respectfully and softly. But on Twitter, it just takes a right turn.
Mhm.
You know, my first question is always, okay, cool. You think gender is so can you give me one gender characteristic that you think a kid is born with?
Mhm.
If we kept them locked up in a room, which apparently we're not allowed to do. If
No,
we just
shouldn't do
kept
that.
them trapped in a room, can you give me one characteristic? You know, is it the hair? Is it the clothes? Is it what is it? You know, and some people will say, okay, testosterone and estrogen, they
Mhm.
drive us to do certain things. I said, okay, I can understand that. Here's my
Mhm.
question. There are a lot of women with a lot of testosterone
Mhm.
Mhm.
and men with estrogen, like
Mhm.
many different levels. So wouldn't you be more likely to think that if you have a huge testosterone drive, that whatever you think's associated, and I'm not too sure what you think is associated with testosterone because I don't know either, because they constantly call women emotional. I'm like, but if they have super high testosterone, isn't when we say violence or isn't that emotion?
Of course it is.
We just discount it,
Right.
right?
Right.
Mhm.
Um, and they get very frustrated very quickly, and then, you know, you get called names and you say, "God bless, have a nice day," and move move on,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
But I think it's such an important conversation. Um, but I think it's a scary one. I
Yeah.
really do, for most
Oh,
people.
yeah.
To
People are
to that
threatened by it because it's not like you say, it doesn't fall within their little neat little box of what they're comfortable with, right?
Sure.
and some people seem to really need that box.
They
Mhm.
do.
Mhm.
Like
Yeah, they
the
do.
one of the first things one of the first lessons, and thank goodness for good teachers, was to be comfortable with not knowing and being
Mhm.
comfortable with ambiguity.
Yeah,
It's like,
no,
and it's like there's
most people aren't.
if it's if it's not if it's not binary,
Mhm.
Mhm.
you know, it's like, is this a good thing? Yes or no? You know, do you support this? Yes or no? This is black or white. This is male or female.
Mhm.
This is if it's not binary,
Right.
they just can't function.
I think they need that, and then you look at it in all other aspects. Like, I think and absolutely no disrespect to people of faith. I think people that believe in certain, religions, there's a beautiful part to it, and then there's,
Mhm.
like, a beautiful part to it that I respect even though I don't share.
Hmm.
But then there's the other part where here's the list of rules, and here's what you do to be a good person. I think people like that.
Mhm.
I
Yeah.
think people like the structure, just like little kids like structure at school. They like the structure. The structure gives them confidence. The structure gives them a sense of stability so that when they walk through their world, they know this is a touchstone. This never changes. And religion is a big one like that, right? This never changes. Um, because they're not comfortable with every other change. Look, every other change that happens to us, we know how life works, right? Everything usually comes no change isn't transition isn't fun for anyone. Nobody
Hmm.
wants everybody's looking for ways to control change and control transition and
Hmm.
control the externalities that impact us when we don't choose for them to impact us,
Hmm.
whether it's protecting a marriage, a job,
Mhm.
like everything is about how do I mitigate change, right?
Right.
Which we can't, which is like the definition, I think, of insanity. But religion is a really strong underpinning, I think, for that kind of stability. And people hold on to that, right? And that's
Hmm.
why they get so frustrated when you challenge it. I try not to
Mhm.
challenge it too much because I often say, like, you know, talking about God is like ants talking about physics. I just don't see the point.
Mhm.
Um, you can't prove, I can't disprove, yada, yada, yada. But whatever you believe, that's beautiful. Have that. It's just not a very useful conversation. And so when I start
Hmm.
having the conversation, I try to separate because there's a lot of people who still want to do that with me. So I'll try to separate your belief
Mhm.
from the rules,
Hmm.
right? The your God from the book, whatever the book is. It doesn't
Mhm.
matter to me because the book was written by men. So, you know, and I for the most part, I don't think I've ever talked to anybody who follows all of the rules,
Right.
Well,
right?
it's
Right. It's
impossible to
cherry
do,
picking.
right?
And if you're not following all the rules and you decided some aspects of the Bible don't apply, well, who gets to decide that? Now what? Now
And
here's the problem.
and there's an
Mhm.
arrogance in that.
Oh,
If you're the faith,
yeah.
because now you're deciding in the name or in the stead, in the place of the higher power, the creator or whatever. You're like, you put that in that book, but I think I know better.
Yeah.
Right? There's an inherent arrogance in that.
Yeah. I love to say as soon
When
as people
humility is
talk
required.
about, as soon as people talk about, being gay or being trans and the Bible and the God and the whatever, I'm like, so you're pro-slavery? That's my first question.
Right?
And they're like, excuse me? I'm like, just a question. I
Just a
want to know
question.
where we're starting. Are you, if that's your go-to, cool. And that's it. You're not interpreting it. You're not changing it for time and context. So we won't even talk about 1946, which is when the word homosexual was put in the
Mhm.
Bible. Let's just skip
Mhm.
that.
Right.
Let's just stick to what you think it is right now. You're pro-slavery. And then they usually just stop talking to me or call me names and move on with their day. But again, I don't ever want to feel like it's such a fine line, because I think it has value in the sense that I don't want anybody to think that I need to condemn their faith or their belief, but I do need to challenge the ways in which you use your faith to, A, dictate to others, B, use it to create some sort of political ideology or legal foundation through which
Mhm.
we're going to run society.
Right.
And now I have an issue. There it is. Now I don't, you don't get me anymore, right?
Right.
If you want to stay at home and pray and do this and do that, and that's
Knock yourself out.
great. Yeah,
Yeah.
have a great time with that. But the minute you think that those fundamental beliefs are the morality or the ethics that we're supposed to run our society on, well, then now I get to challenge your beliefs, where they come from, how
Mhm.
are they valid? Do they hold weight? Do they hold time and place? But it's a hard fight, because I again, not ever trying to be disrespectful to somebody's faith.
Well, you remember a
do
bunch
too.
of years back when Dalton McGuinty was Premier of Ontario, and somebody tried to bring up the topic of Sharia law in Ontario and in Canada. And when he stood up at Queen's Park, he said, "We have laws. We have the laws of the land. We have Canadian laws, and that's it. There are nothing more. We will not bring religious laws into our secular laws because that's a problem." I was not a big fan of his because I always thought he was liberal in name only. I thought he was a conservative wearing a different thing, but that's neither here nor there. I was proud of him for that moment because I think it was the right thing to do.
Mhm.
We're a secular nation. We need to remain a secular nation. Parliament Hill is not a church.
Mhm.
You can go to your church to worship. I will support your right to do so. You're free to do so, but Parliament Hill is not a church. Your religion does not belong on Parliament Hill.
Mm.
And one of the things that I saw during the occupation of Ottawa, because it took place in my neighborhood, was the religiosity of it all.
Mhm.
And there was so much of it. It was really troubling. But it wasn't religion of love. It was surrounded by hatred of others.
Mm.
Mhm. Yeah.
And
I
that's
yeah, go
complex.
I
Right.
define differently between faith and religion all the time. I make
Yep.
that distinction pretty crystal
Right.
clear. Faith is beautiful. Faith is about personal experience. Faith is about finding a higher power. Religion's about control.
Mhm.
Always has been. I don't care what religion. As soon as you say the religion of, you're talking about institutions. As soon as you talk about institutions, you take the beauty sort of out of it. It's funny that you say we're a secular nation, because I believe what Dalton McGuinty said. He should have gone further,
I
in my
agree, yes.
opinion, as should, like, we pretend to be secular. What we really need to do
Mm.
and own is the fact that we weren't born as a secular nation.
Right.
True.
Still have elements of religion driving some of our bigger institutions. There's a reason we get 2 weeks off at Christmas. There's a reason I'll get 4 days off at Easter. There was a reason that for the majority of my life, Sundays, you couldn't open your business.
Right.
Those are all vestiges of us being a Christian nation. It says God in our national anthem. Look, all those things have to go. If we're going to be truly secular and we're going to say no to things like Sharia law, I think it's about, we in Ontario, we fund the Catholic School Board. I think at some point we have to say, we have to get rid of the vestiges. And you know who that's popular with? Nobody.
No, I know.
Nobody.
I know.
And funnily enough, nobody that's religious, not just Christian, or because we have Judeo-Christian values are sort of at the center of our creation, you know, of our country, but nobody who's religious at all. They all hate that idea. So even though in my opinion, it's the right thing to do for a secular democracy, who am I standing against? Everybody. When I say things like no more Catholic schools or should get funded with public money, you can go to private Catholic school, right? I start saying things like we're not taking 2 weeks off at Christmas.
Oh yeah, that's a big problem. That's a big problem.
What's wrong with you?
Yeah, and that really does sum it up. Even though we are a secular nation, God is in the Charter of Rights and Freedoms. Right from the get-go. Which I've always had an issue with, because what about the folks who don't believe? So we've just basically, the charter doesn't apply to them. Is that the case? You know, I've always questioned that, even as a young boy. So you're right. We have a long way to go. We are a secular nation in thought.
Yeah, because even our laws, I mean, all the morality behind our laws is 10 commandment based.
Yeah. And how
everything that exists now. I mean, that's the seed.
Yeah, exactly.
So when you say unlearn, it's not, you got to take the best and.
Absolutely. Now, and when we didn't even argue against that, although the United States, it's hysterical that they're as religious as they are, because really the United States and their inception and the reason why people came over in the first place was all about religious persecution and creating a world. And what are the first things they do when they step foot? Well, the Puritans start persecuting other people for their religious beliefs.
Yeah.
It's almost as though, well, again, it's a methodology of control. And let me say this, in a nicer way. So it's not always about negative control. I think there's a lot of people who truly believe that if you don't believe, you don't get the afterlife. They believe that in their heart. I don't think they go door to door trying to sell you something they don't believe in. I think they truly believe this is what you need, right? And I don't look at those people and go, evil people, what horrible people. You know, you think, okay, you believe that, and it's something that, and it also is a really good way to solidify a nation. If we all think the same way, if we all follow those same 10 rules or whatever religious text, it's a really good way to come to consensus, right? And I think coming to that kind of consensus gives the illusion of stability, again, right? We were talking about the illusion of being in a box that everybody knows and everybody can expect and everybody can guess what's going to happen next. And it makes everybody feel better.
Yep.
And that's it.
Yeah.
Even though it's never in the history of the world, it is never played out like that, no matter what religion you're talking about.
Yeah. When we're talking about identity, and there's another video that you made recently that I'd like to play because I think it's absolutely brilliant and leads to the next series of questions I'd like to ask.
Segue.
Yeah. But if you'll put it up, Mr. Grizzly.
Sure thing.
This is amazing to me.
Oh, my students, yeah.
Okay, so story time about my grade 7 and 8s, okay? It's very endearing. They sometimes really do pull out your heartstrings. Here's what happened. So you remember when I took the 7 and 8s to the mall before Ant-Man and I said you could take me shopping and style me, right? And they all were making jokes about putting me in a prom dress and super high heels and doing my hair. And they were joking with me. And And that was funny and it was good, and I put it in the video. Then we're driving up, and there's 3 kids in my car from that class, and we're driving up to the mall. And one of the kids, they're joking about what they're going to put me in, what colors and stuff. And one of the kids goes, Joe, do you know that we're joking when we want to dress you like this? I said, yeah, I know you're joking, so you don't feel like we're making fun of you. I said, absolutely not, guys. And then they paused, and another kid said, but what if we take you to the mall and we dress you up like that, and then when people see the video, they think we're making fun of you? I said, guys, don't worry. You don't have to worry about them Well, I'll talk about it. We'll talk about it back and forth so everybody knows I don't have any hurt feelings, right? And then another kid goes, but Joe, what if there are kids that are watching this that are trans or that have a different identity from what there is expected of them? And by us dressing you up like this, when we know that that's not how you're comfortable, it could maybe make them feel bad and make it feel like we're making a joke out of who they really are. Guys, I'm just going to give them all an A and call it a day. And they said, Joe, we're not going to do that with you. We're going to dress you how we think you want to be dressed. And that's it. Because we don't want to make fun of anybody. And we don't want anybody to feel bad when they're watching your video. My job is done.
The kids are all right.
Oh my God.
The kids are all right.
Everybody's like, yeah, it's so funny because I posted that video on Twitter. I get a lot of comments on TikTok. So I definitely don't see them all, but on Twitter. And then I started getting hate for that video. I started getting some anger about that video. And I'm like, what are we talking? And they're like, how dare you make kids feel like they have to worry about everybody's feelings? I'm like, what? How dare you push your sexuality on them? And I'm like,
what?
I said they were talking about, and again, it's people's minds, right? They think because I dress the way I dress that somehow I've sat kids down and, discussed. Well, to be honest, though, I mean, it's a part of the curriculum, for crying out loud, to talk about gender, to talk about, I teach grade 7 and 8 health, heaven help me. I have to talk about all of those things. But in every course I teach, we talk about the gay rights movement. We talk about civil rights in a bigger picture. We talk about laws pertaining to, the trans community. That's called education. So of course I'm talking about it, but not as it pertains to me necessarily. Anyway, so I started getting all of this and people were just like, leave the kids alone. They can't even joke with you anymore. I said, did you listen to the video?
Clearly not.
Did you? They understood, and this is the cool part, but hard part about social media, especially when you have, when you have a level of attention that I get, is that I have to be careful that a joke between my class and I, like within the confines of relationships we've built,
right,
doesn't play on a national or an international platform because they don't get the connections. They don't get the, right? And so that's all my kids were understanding there. They were understanding that a joke between them and I is different than a joke that goes out without real context or knowing the players to potentially the world. And they saw that happen with one of my videos, and they're super, and nobody talks about it, but they're super cognizant about it. I made a video one time a few months ago. I had a test. I had tests. Usually my tests fall on the same day for all my classes. So like I had a test day, and at the end of test day, I was beside myself because it's such an insane, like they're all very high stress and a lot of silly things happen. And so I get in my car and I say, okay, I am going to tell you the top 10 questions that kids ask me on test day. And then I'm going to like sarcastically deal with them in my car because I don't want to sarcastically deal with them with the kid because they're stressed out. But oh my God, so I did things like, and I have the questions and I'd be like, Joanna, can I have a pen or pencil to write? You didn't bring a pen or you came to a test and you didn't bring a pen or pencil? Anyways, I go down. My favorite answer is, Joanna, is this enough? like they'll give me I'm like, oh, you want me to read it, grade it, and then give it back to you so you can stop it? So I can't. Anyways, and the funny part was, at the end of the day, I had my grade 7 and 8, and I was sort of at my wit's end about tests, right? And the kids, I was joking with them, and they said, let's make a list of stupid questions we asked you. And that's what the list was. They made it. But here's the funny part. When I did the video, when I did the TikTok, I don't think I've ever received so much hate. Mostly, wait for it, mostly from kids.
Oh.
Kids in other schools where that kind of seeming sarcasm, because obviously I do it sarcastically, right? And I didn't explain that whole front end in the video because I didn't have time to.
Right.
They thought, and they made sort of the assumption that I am a bully of a teacher that gets really angry at kids with things like ADHD, or kids who have different levels of autism, or kids that have different learning abilities. And somehow they clumped that all together. And it was just like, guys, I have said things about politicians, never have I incurred this. And it got to like 2.5 million in less than the day. So I knew it was going to be huge. And I looked at it, and initially I was typing, because some of the comments were just ridiculous. But then I get to a comment where it was somebody who was, listen, I love all your stuff. I just graduated from high school, and I know that you're not this person. I know I've watched all your stuff, so I know who you are. But this video still triggered me because I've had so many teachers that talk to me in such a way and dismiss me in such a way that they don't take into account all the other struggles that I'm going through. And it triggered me, Joe. And so, in that moment, I said, I'm taking it down. And then I did an apology, or an apology or an acknowledgement of what I did. And I had to come to terms with, and this is hard, what my intent was and what the impact was.
Right.
When there's such a big gulf of difference between the two, you have to stop saying, but I meant to, but my intent was, because my intent doesn't matter anymore.
Right.
When I have thousands of kids saying, you must be a horrible teacher, this relates to the teacher that I had that made fun of me. Now I just have to read the impact. And I took the video down, and the next day the kids are like, why'd you take the video down? I talked to them about it. So in the back of their heads, they remembered the conversation we had about intent and impact. And they're smart enough to distinguish between those two, especially when you have 2.2 million people following you.
Yep.
Right? Who haven't watched all your videos.
Right.
When something goes viral,
It's an isolation.
Of that virality is not to your people. It's to brand new people.
Right.
If this was the only video of mine they would have seen,
right,
how would they take me?
Right.
Right.
Right? And that's,
well, I can relate.
And some people just and so that's what my kids understood when they didn't want me to dress the way when I mean, don't get me wrong, they still want to see me to dress, for the love of God, but they didn't want it to be taken. If they only saw that video, could that video stand alone, or would that video be used in a negative connotation to promote, some kind of anti-trans mentality? And
now, when I was watching that, I got to the first part when you said, like, the kids were looking, and my first thought was Katie Lang, Miss Chatelaine. First thing, because it was like, when I saw that video, I was like, holy moly, right? Because everybody has everything in them.
Yeah.
Right. It's like, for one moment like this, and I'm sure there's more than one moment, but for one moment, she was, for lack of a better word, such a girl.
Right.
Like the dress and the flower and the hair, and and it's like, yeah, I can do this.
Yeah.
If I want, I could be that person. I could be that image, but everything else is where I'm more comfortable like this. But there's this in me too, if I want to.
100%. And
Right?
it's funny because I said to the kids, guys, you've seen me. If you go far enough back in my TikToks, you've seen me. I have no problem wearing a dress. I
Mhm.
have no problems wearing high heels. I have no problems doing my hair differently. Here's the funny part. This is where there's this line of I feel discomfort. And I don't even know why, guys. I can't paint my nails.
Ah,
Do I understand why? No, not even a little bit. I
Just
can't.
doesn't.
I've tried because I like the like there's aspects where I'm like, oh, it's cool. Like it's you know what I mean? Like it's
yep.
Mhm.
just nope, can't do it. And for one video quite a while ago, I wore a wig, a blonde, long wig. And I went, nope, I can't do this.
Mm.
And so the video that I did was actually it was a split screen video. It was for a competition on TikTok forever ago where I played you're supposed to do opposites. And I sang You Got 4 Minutes to Save the World by Justin Timberlake and Madonna.
Right.
And one half of the screen I was Justin and the other half I was Madonna. And then it would sort of go back and forth, right? But I mean Madonna, like black, tight, looking like leather, shiny pants, super high heels, a corset, and a blonde wig. And it was the blonde at full makeup.
Mhm.
And it was the blonde wig that made me physically uncomfortable. Like I didn't
Wow.
want to. Anna edited it and she did whatever. I'm like, can't watch it again. I'll win the competition. I can't watch it again. I don't know. But the dress itself, no, that doesn't bother me.
Hmm.
And I've had longer hair. It's not like I've never had long hair. But so it's interesting the things that maybe aren't us, but are okay because I think it can still look good.
Mhm.
And the things
Mhm.
that aren't us that have a very sort of visceral effect where I'm like, I can't do it. I can't put on a wig, right? So it's kind of interesting in that
Well,
capacity.
so one of the things that I've talked about in the past about how we have sort of weirdness when it comes to gender norms, if you will, is July. It's 32 degrees outside. I'm in downtown Ottawa and I have to go into a meeting. So I'm wearing a suit, not a tie because it's too bloody hot. And my female colleagues are all in sundresses. And I'm like, God damn it, if I could wear a sundress, I'd be so much more comfortable right now, right? But there's no way I could ever pull that off.
Right.
Not only that, I think I would be incredibly uncomfortable in it, but I can pull off a kilt.
Right.
And I'm comfortable in that. So I like that weird sort of dichotomy in my own brain. So I'm trying to relate to the wig moment for you in that
Yeah.
sense. I can
Yeah.
wear a kilt, no problem. Cool, manly. A kilt's manly. Sundress, not so manly, but really comfortable in a hot summer day.
But
So
what I think what's interesting about that is, and I say this all the time, when you go against gender norms and that's how you live. And for me, it was succumbing to a gender norm that made me uncomfortable.
Mhm.
Does that make
Mhm.
sense? That's to
Yeah, no,
me,
absolutely.
that's the part where I can identify that's not socialization, that's me. And for
Mhm.
Mhm.
men, and I've said this for a long time because people love to talk about feminism and how it, it's dead and it's crap and blah blah blah. And I'm like, not only does feminism or does the lack of equality between the sexes hurt women, it hurts men
Mhm.
because
Oh, yes,
what
it does.
we've done, and I call it genderism. I'm done with the sexes. The battle of the
Mhm.
sexes is garbage. It's not the battle of the sexes. It's the battle of gender norms. That's what we're dealing with here. But when I think of the gender qualifications of what it is to be feminine and what it is to be masculine, the division of labor or the division of norms isn't the problem, even though it is a problem. It's not the biggest problem. Here's the biggest problem. What we've done in our society is we've prioritized the masculine over the feminine. We've said being masculine is better, which is why I get to sit here with you guys right now wearing my baseball hat sideways and cut my hair short. And even though some people have an issue with it, nobody really gives a crap, right?
Right.
Mhm.
How many women, all these women were walking around in pants. What? But as soon as you guys become more feminine not only are you breaking gender norms, which should be fine because women do it all the time, you're stepping down. You're becoming lesser, right?
That's
You're
what it
giving
is.
up power. And then they start challenging your sexuality and yada, yada, yada. But there's the inherent issue, which it applies to gender. It has nothing to do with your sex. It has nothing to do with what you
Nothing.
were born with. It has everything to do with how we have divided gender norms and then prioritized a set as being, so when women become doctors and lawyers and business owners, we're moving up. We're getting better. When guys stay home and take care of their kids,
They see that as a downgrade, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which is horrible.
Yeah.
Nurses make $110,000 a year. A guy becomes a nurse,
Yeah.
and all of a sudden we're like, oh my God, he must be gay. He must be this. You couldn't be a doctor?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, no, agreed. Agreed.
Mr. Grizz, I think we have a Beaver Lodge live cam shot.
Do we?
Yeah.
Oh,
Somehow.
hang on. Let me see if I can pull it up there. Yeah, there we go. Yeah.
Oh yeah, there we go. Okay.
Looking for the video?
Yes. I was Mr. Grizzly. Also, if you do that sundress thing, just remember you have to wear at least a 4-inch heel if you want a semblance of a calf.
Well,
You gotta have the calf, baby.
I did wear platform boots and platform shoes in the 70s. That was the thing. We called them kiss boots.
There we go.
Platform boots. I wore them.
Talk about drag. Like, look at
right.
Gene Simmons. My God.
Right?
Oh, I have a great Gene. Did you guys ever hear my Gene Simmons story?
No.
I have a great Gene Simmons story. So I used to go to Comic-Cons before COVID all the time. I love Comic-Cons. Whatever. I'm a huge nerd. So I went to this Comic-Con and Gene Simmons was there. I find him fascinating. I'm not a huge Kiss fan, but I find Gene Simmons and the way he speaks and blah, 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 fascinating. So I was standing in line for him. And as I was standing in line for him, next to him, heaven help me, was Hercules. What's his name? Kevin Sorbo.
Oh, yes.
Okay, so this is pre-social media. So
Right.
this is pre me really understand. Like, I knew he was Hercules. I didn't know anything else because this was in the beautiful days where we didn't know what our actors thought about things. They just acted.
Right.
And I'm like, cool, Hercules was fun. I would probably ask him a question about Xena, but that's just me. And I stood in line, and in front of me was this little guy full in Kiss gear. Like, I mean, he looked like Gene Simmons, and he was like 7. Okay. The whole outfit. And as he got closer, Kevin Sorbo leans over to Simmons so people can hear him, including this little guy, and says, oh my God, you can't even tell if they're girls or boys anymore. Well, Gene Simmons took a strip off Kevin Sorbo.
Awesome.
At that moment, that was epic. Absolutely epic. And Sorbo kind of got red-faced and backed off a little bit. And Gene came around and did a video with the kid. Because now you're not just giving your politics. Now you're giving your politics and making a young boy, he was a boy, and clearly, but now you're making him feel like garbage about how, his hero standing right there. And so not only was Gene protecting the kid, he was like, Kevin, how did you, like, are you talking to me? Like, look at my band.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he goes, and you're so insecure that what? You couldn't put a little bit of makeup on? You walked around your stupid show half naked. You don't think you weren't a gay? Anyways,
Yeah.
It was brilliant. It was absolutely brilliant. And then I got up to talk to Gene Simmons, and he said some of the most, because I look the way I look, coming right up after that. And I was talking about, I wasn't even in any kind of media at all. And he goes, listen, you have an energy and a presence about you that would be huge in this arena. He goes, and people are going to try to control what you look like and how you present. He goes, but how you look and how you present is your superpower. That's it. That is what you're leading your character with. He said, so do it and do it full and never apologize to anybody for anything. But this business will eat women alive if given the opportunity. You just got to be bigger than the business. And I know Gene Simmons has said stupid things, and I know he's like, but holy crap, in that moment, I saw his character.
Yes.
And it wasn't just about some grand statement of whatever in front of a bunch of fans, because when he talked to me, nobody else could hear him.
Yeah, that was just one-on-one.
That was just us.
Yeah.
So anyways.
Well, it's fascinating that you say that, because yes, he said some stupid stuff. Haven't we all?
Exactly.
It's
Can you imagine if we were all sick for our whole lives? Heaven
Oh my
forbid.
word.
Almighty. Nuance. Like, I'm going to do 4 stupid things today. I know I will.
I would not
because
have
I'm
a
human.
show.
Well, yeah. I mean,
Well, it's
we make
true.
mistakes. Hopefully we learn from the mistakes, and
Right.
hopefully we unlearn the things that we've, the terrible things that we've been living for decades.
Yeah.
And as you say, unlearn. I've had to unlearn a lot of stuff in the last 10, 15 years.
We all
And it's
have.
made me a
Oh, yeah.
better person. you
Yeah.
know?
I think it's funny because the only way I joke sometimes and I say, you know who impresses me the most when they unlearn? White, straight, Christian men. Here's
Mhm.
why. Because you don't friggin' have to.
No.
Right.
You are choosing to, right? Like somebody
Right.
like me. So when I was straight or living in that world in an upper middle class white household, no problems to speak of, until I was 24. Until I was 24, I had no reason to see a different picture, and I didn't put myself in a place to see a different picture. The only thing that shoved me out of my bubble happened to be the fact that I came out. And all of a sudden, whether I wanted to or not, I now am outside of the bubble. When you're outside of the bubble, you see a lot of things more clearly.
Yep.
Now,
Oh, yes.
some people would have said, yeah, but you were a woman. Yeah, but I was a woman that didn't really face anything yet at that point.
Mhm.
Like nothing significant. And so when people choose to really take a hard look at themselves and their privilege without being forced out of the bubble, I'm impressed by that. Because that's
Well,
a choice.
I've long acknowledged I sit atop the white privilege pyramid.
Mhm.
I'm 6 foot tall. I weigh 185 pounds. I'm physically fit, cis, het, white, male, Anglo. Like literally, I'm the epitome of what the top of that pyramid looks like.
Yeah.
So knowing that, and some people seem to have a problem with me when I say that. I'm like, why? I'm acknowledging my position.
Mhm.
I'm acknowledging the fact that I have all of that. But you're not rich. That's not what it means. It means I have less obstacles in front of me.
That's
It
it.
means I
Yeah.
don't have to. It means I literally don't have to unlearn any of those things if I choose not to. I've
Mhm.
chosen to unlearn them. I've
Mhm.
chosen to be a better person. And it's going to take the rest of my life to hopefully get to where I want to be someday. I don't know if I'll ever actually make it, but I'm going to keep going, right? Because I think life is worthwhile. And the more you learn, the better you get, the better you get, the better you do. You can help people. I can use this position of white privilege to help others.
Yeah.
So acknowledging that I have it means I can use it for good.
Right.
At least I like to think so.
100%. Absolutely. And a lot of people, and again, when guys like Jordan Peterson sort of try to defunct and strip down white privilege as though it doesn't exist, he misses a whole bunch of points. But what the reality is, and I say this to my kids all the time, when it's Christmas time in Toronto, I love Christmas. Am I religious? No. But do I love Christmas? Absolutely. And so I get to immerse myself every time I turn on the TV, the radio, every time I walk downtown Toronto, the thing that I love the most gets to be everywhere.
Mhm.
When I talk about, and again, it's not about a religion for me, but when I talk about somebody who doesn't doesn't believe in Christ, that's not their history, that's not their culture, that's not what provides them the most joy in life. Guess what? They get to absorb it anyway.
Yeah.
Right.
I don't ever have to know what Diwali is. I don't ever have to understand Yom Kippur.
Mhm.
I don't ever have to understand an Eid.
Right.
But all of those people
Have to.
know exactly what Christmas is. They have
Mhm.
sat down and watched Christmas Vacation. They know Charlie Brown's music come hell or high water. That's the point.
Mhm.
It's like those people have more education because they get their culture, their identity, their whatever. And then all of the stuff we're consistently forcing down their throat, which I happen to love, that they get that too. And that's the idea. That's the privilege. And the privilege is you don't have to fight for feeling like you're in the bubble. You just get to happily exist there,
Yes.
right?
Yep.
You don't have to fight
Exactly.
for any of that.
Right.
And it's a pretty place that nobody wants to step out of. Nobody wants to take the time and be like, okay, well, I'm going to purposefully be a minority in a situation. Like, there's not a lot of places in Toronto I feel like a minority.
Mhm.
I remember one time I had a few friends who are Indian, and they wanted to take me to a Bollywood club. Like, it was like a certain night at a club where it was like all Indian Bollywood kind of music. And I remember walking into that place and I looked around and I went, huh, I'm literally the only white person in this room. And I can't dance like that. I watch how they dance. I'm like, do I get lessons? I'm just going to stand here. But in that moment, what I felt was very interesting is that there was a discomfort. There was a feeling where all these other people get it, whatever it is, and I don't. And I could feel people kind of going, "What's with the white chick?" You know what I mean? Not that they were mean or nothing like
Yeah,
that.
just
But if you want to know what it feels like, you have to, as you know, somebody who looks like me, you have to purposefully put yourself
Mhm.
in situations where you are the minority, and we don't do that. We don't choose to do that very often. I didn't even choose really to do it then. I just I didn't know what that was gonna feel like. I
right.
just
Right.
kinda ended up there. And I think that's the education that we're missing, especially in the United States. I
Mhm.
think they're very much missing the feeling of what it's like to be in another community, to be in another system where what you think and how you act and all of those aren't the dominant. And and I can't teach that to kids. They have to
Mhm.
feel it. You
Oh,
have to
yes.
go out and feel it. Whereas in the United States, they've had forced segregation for so long, you wonder why they have a race relation problem. Well, because you have entire communities that are singularly focused on whatever ethno-cultural, racial background, and your ability to integrate has been legally, economically, and socially limited ever since slavery.
Mhm.
And then you think if it's gone by the 80s, you're supposed to all of a sudden just integrate?
Yeah, it doesn't
Amazing, we
work
don't
that
have to
way.
live here anymore, pack up the house, we're gonna go.
Right.
That's not how it works,
Right.
right?
Right.
But that's how, in my opinion, I don't wanna say integration because it seems forced, but
Mhm.
personal relationships and um, understanding and getting to know people of different races, different religions, different whatever, but really immersing yourself. That's the place that true education lies, and that's when we really start dismantling all of the bullcrap that we have in our heads, all the pretense. That's how those stereotypes fit. You don't need to work to eradicate the stereotype anymore.
Mhm.
It's gone.
Oh, yeah.
Because you're like, oh, but my neighbor who's from Pakistan, who we've had this beautiful conversation with, they have these great kids. They call my grandma grandma. It's gone,
Mhm.
Right.
you know? But not a lot of people are given the opportunity or force themselves into that kind of frame of mind.
Well, and the opportunity is the big thing. I've told the story once before. I'll really give you a parsed version of it. I was 21 and I was being a bit of an a-hole, and a woman that I knew said, "You're getting too big for your britches. We're going out Friday night." So we went out Friday night, and she took me to a gay club. I didn't know it was a gay club, and I just realized, wow, the music is banging. Everybody's pretty styling. And then you start going, and then all of a sudden I started getting hit on a lot. And I'm like, "You brought me to a gay bar, didn't you?" She goes, "Yeah." And I was visually uncomfortable.
Uh-huh.
It was a new experience for me. I was 21, so I didn't know a damn thing about anything. End of the night, we get outside and she goes, "How was that?" And I go, "That was exhausting. Like, I kept having to tell these guys to just, no, I'm just here with my friend. I'm just hanging out." And she goes, "Welcome to being a woman." I went, "Oh my God."
Yeah.
No
Yeah.
idea. I
Sure.
never, how would I know? How would I
You
know?
would
Because,
never know.
right?
You would
And
never know.
that,
Now, in all
that gave me,
fairness, in
gave me a
all
different
fairness,
focus.
you were experiencing on another level because you were having to deal with like a level of, well, this is all not only do I not want to be hit on, but I'm also not gay. So in
Right.
all fairness, she really ramped up your discomfort.
Yes.
But that's
But I
fine.
needed it.
That's
I
fine.
needed it.
Yeah,
But
I needed it. It
like,
was a learning experience for me,
But
right?
also,
absolutely.
I'm guessing that this is maybe pre-internet when the
Yes.
gay club was the only place we had to go. So it is a highly sexualized environment because it's
This
like
is over 30
we've been
years
working
ago.
all week and we've got 3 hours on Friday and 3 hours on Saturday to meet
Yeah.
somebody we can
Yeah.
get horizontal with.
Right,
That's
right.
all the time we got. So we're on a
Yeah,
schedule.
this was in the 80s. It was 1988. So
Yeah.
in 1989, I was
And were
21.
you in Ottawa?
Yeah, yeah.
Yep.
What was the gay club in Ottawa? Even in
Well,
1989, there would have been like one club that nobody talks
Right.
about.
there was a
Right.
few of them actually.
There's a
There
few.
was a few of them because I
Wow.
knew
We're
the
hidden.
For
DJs.
Ottawa.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there was the Coral Reef Club, which was
Yep.
part of the Rideau Center parking structure, had been there since the 60s.
Oh,
That's
wow.
long since gone. This
Yep.
was, I can't remember what the name of this was at the time. It later became a nightclub called Lips, and then it changed hands a bunch of times. The building is still there, but it's been gutted, and it's going to be turned into a 30-story hotel condo or something like
Of
that.
course. Yeah.
And then there was always the Centertown pub on Somerset
Yep.
Street, which is known as CPs, and some of my friends call it creepies because it's usually on a Sunday night. It's filled with older, creepy gay men who are hitting on the young men. It's kind of weird because I've gone there for karaoke on Sunday nights, right?
Even their best
And
shot.
it's weird when you're standing there at the urinal and you've got some creepy old dude looking at your business, going like, "That's really nice." I'm like, "Yeah, my girlfriend likes it. Do you mind?"
Oh my gosh.
Uh,
It's so
yeah.
funny. I was in a very long time ago because I don't go out anymore. Don't. But I was in downtown Toronto. There's a bar called oh my God, the name just went. Cruise and Tangos.
Mm.
Anyways, for the most part, it's gay men. Not to say that gay women don't go in there, and there's a lot of straight people that go
Yeah.
there as well
Mhm.
because it's cool to go there now. But I remember walking up the stairs dressed as I am, probably a ball cap on, and I got my butt slapped so hard it
Ooh.
rang my head. I was just like, and I turned around, and it was this very cute, skinny gay boy who saw that I was a woman when I turned,
Whoops.
thought I was a dude, and he was like, "Oh, I'm so sorry." And I laughed so hard. I'm like, "What? Can I ask a question? That was firm. Like, that was a hard slap." But anyways, it was really funny, and I know what it's been like to be hit on, to be a woman, a gay woman, and apparently a gay guy. Willing to slap.
A lot. I remember the days. My first year of university when I was still had just finished being a dance student for several years. So my lower part of my body was much bigger than my upper part of my body because all the plies.
All the dancing, I got you.
Yes. Yeah, and I had a 34, 28, 34 figure, and I had long hair like this, and I was jogging.
And waist was this big.
Yes, my thighs were huge. My waist was tiny, and I was jogging. And the number of times that I kept, especially if I was driving spandex, and I'd get stopped. "Excuse me, ma'am, can you tell?" I'd turn around with the beard. Yes.
Yes.
Exactly. Exactly.
I was a boy with curves.
There we go.
In that the second video that we showed, you ended it by going, "My job is done."
Mm.
What's your job?
That's a great question. I like to think of my job as two things. Number one, teaching my students how to critically and intelligently take in information, all the
Mhm.
information, and make decisions for themselves. And my second job, and it goes hand in hand with the first, is to figure out how to walk in this world with respect, compassion, and a sense of justice that doesn't just apply to you, but applies to everybody in this world. And if we would all do those two things, everything gets better tomorrow. And I think that's what education really is about. All the information with an awareness and a belief system that says, I am going to get all of this information in order to create or in order to be a part of and produce the best possible world I can. That's my job, I think.
Damn. Where were you when I was in school?
Yeah.
Like, and I mean that in all seriousness, because I was a military kid, so I moved around the country a lot, and I went to 4 different high schools, and I
Right.
still don't have a grade 9 math credit or a grade 11 math credit, but somehow I
wow.
graduated. Shh, don't
Right.
tell anybody. Don't tell anybody.
Yeah, you just slid by
One
it.
province to the next, the curriculums don't match up. One school to the next in the same town, the curriculums don't match up. So, and for military kids, there weren't a lot of military high schools. They had elementary schools on the basis, but no
Right.
high schools for the most part. So hence my 4 different high schools.
Yeah.
So yeah, school was fun for me, but it turns out later, many decades later, I find out that I had general anxiety disorder, depression, and ADHD. Didn't know any of that at the time.
We
And
would
of
never,
course,
right?
and
Yeah.
I wouldn't have done anything about it. No, you don't go see a psychiatrist or a
No.
psychologist. Those are for crazy people. I'm not one of
Yes.
those.
Of course.
It was the 1980s. That's how it was.
Think
But,
about all of the kids, and a lot of people talk to me about this because I'm not a big fan of modification, but I am a fan of accommodation. And so what I mean by that, because some people modify their courses, what I mean by that, I am never changing the goal line. The goal line is the same. If you want to do well in my class, the goal line is the same. You have a 3-page paper, you have to write a test, you have to do this, you have to do that. However, there can be many roads to get to that goal line. They don't all have to look the same. And as long as you are proving and showing that you have the information, that you understand it, that you can apply it, why the hell would I not give you a different road? Now, that's incredibly hard when you have 35 kids in your class, which is why the public school system is crumbling. And it's nothing to do with how good or bad a teacher is. It has to do with, I can't do that 35 times in a grade 11 English course, but I can do it if I had 15 kids. And if I have 15 kids, am I not getting the best out of them? Is that not the goal? Is the goal not to figure out, are they understanding it? Are they getting it? Can they apply it? Or is the goal we all want them to write an SAT? Because the SAT, and we're watching this happen in real time, and some people are saying, oh, it's just so woke. Look, Harvard's getting rid of the SAT.
Right.
Schools are getting rid of
Really?
the LSAT. Do you think that's because they think it has value, but they want to be woke? Or do you think it's because they're finally sitting around going, we only gave one goal line and we're not getting the best of the best. We're not getting the creative thinkers. We're not getting geniuses. We're getting kids that know how to work within the confines of the system we built. But those kids aren't changing the world. Those kids aren't brilliant. Why are all the brilliant kids dropping out of school? Right? Brilliant. Like, I mean, genius level. Well, that's because we're building a system to suit a certain demographic. And then we're losing a lot of kids who could have amazing things to say and to add, but because they have ADHD or because they're on the spectrum in some capacity and they don't fit the model, they just get siphoned out of the system. And as a society, forget being woke, forget being nice, be selfish. I want the best and the brightest and the brilliant and the forward thinkers to be able to get all of the jobs, because if that happens, guess what? My society gets better.
Right.
If I have the men and women who just fit the structures of the system that's been created, I'm going to most likely get the same I've always gotten.
Right.
That serves nobody.
Right.
Right?
Well, it's the old adage: tell a fish to climb a tree, and it'll think it's stupid.
There we go. There we go. And is climbing the tree a useful goal?
Yeah.
That's even for the monkey. that can climb a tree. What's the goal? Is the goal good? So a lot of the time, and I've had a really, sometimes I'll do TikToks about it, sometimes podcasts. The notion, this very ridiculous notion we have, that is, we are objective. We are setting objective standards for people. My question is twofold. Number one, there's no such thing as objectivity. Number two, just because it's the same standard doesn't make it objective and doesn't make it useful. Right? Police officers in Toronto used to have to run a 6-minute mile. That was their physical test. If you talk to any cop on the force, they would agree. They would say, Joanna, it's to keep the women out. They can't run a 6-minute mile. It's the quickest way they can keep women from successfully negotiating the physicality part. And older cops will admit that time after time. New cops won't admit that. And they'll joke. They'll say, do you see that cop? Do you think that guy, he's been on the force 5 years, can run a 6-minute mile?
No way.
And how often do you think a cop is out of the car and running like that? You know what I mean? Like, how often do you think that's a part of the job for it to be the only physical test? And so after people started pushing, now in Toronto, the physical part of the test is like an obstacle course of short bursts of energy, doing very different things that are more applicable to the job. Right? So the notion where it says, well, women should just have to do the, okay. But does the test that maybe she isn't passing, does it directly mean she will be, or he will be, a better firefighter, a better police officer? Or is the notion of objectivity just mean I'm applying the same test to everybody, but the test itself has no value?
Right.
It's like the average, an IQ test is of no value to anybody because it is tailored and skewed for guys who look like me.
Yes, of course it is.
It's completely meaningless.
Of course
and
it is.
There's no accurate way to measure a person's level of intelligence anyway, because maybe this person can't read or write, but they might figure out how to save a life in an emergency situation.
Well,
so
that's
how
the
do you,
thing, right?
You know,
that's the thing, is you have musical intelligence, mathematical intelligence, spatial intelligence. Just the essay, it calculates for one specific type of intelligence, maybe two. Like this, but that's it.
And like you said, it just tailors people to learn how to pass those tests.
Yep.
Right.
And again,
think within the box.
There we go. I joke with my kids all the time because we talk about things like affirmative action. We talk about the pros and the cons of affirmative action and is it doing its job? And I'll say things like, listen, how many people have seen a firefighting movie, where the heroes are the firefighters? And everybody's like, yes, you backdraft. Well, nobody says backdraft anymore, but whatever.
That's too long ago for me.
But I said, what's the number one image you have in your head of a firefighter? And everybody says, picking the person up, throwing them over your shoulder, and carrying them to safety. And I said, and that image, which by the way never happens, but that image is what we think we need to tailor those objective tests to. So when we talk about firefighters, we talk about predominantly men and big guys who can throw somebody over their shoulder. But two things. Number one, it never happens in a fire. The probability of that situation happening is next to zero. Zero. First of all. Second of all, you would never want to put double weight on the same floorboard in a burning building.
Right.
It's a bad idea.
You're going to have a partner and you're going to drag that person out. That's the rule, right? That's the rule.
Oh, look, from a firefighter,
I have a firefighter and it never happens.
Yep.
And then you start to talk about what really happens. What are firefighters doing the most of, right? And why are we not testing? Everybody knows, especially, in our vicinity, the first people to any sort of police call will be the firefighters get there first. It goes firefighters, EMS, police, right? No matter what you need. And what do firefighters end up doing? Well, they end up doing a hell of a lot of the EMS work. Because if they're first to the scene, they're not going to be like, I'm not doing CPR. So again, the ideas of the way we used to, I know this has all changed, but the way that we used to test, or the notions that we have in our heads of what makes a good police officer, firefighter, teacher, whatever, these very ridiculous, seemingly objective tests have no impact and no direct relationship to being good at the job. Teaching is the worst. I ask people all the time, I say to my students, guys, how would you, if you got to hire teachers at Metro, that's my school, how would you hire them? And they all sit there and they're all like, well, we look at their resume. I'm like, okay, cool. So what would you say? Well, they have to go to university. They have to have teachers college. I'm like, okay, basis of education. I'm with you. Then what? Let's assume, then what? Well, I'll tell you then what. Then you're going to sit and you're going to have a conversation. And the person you're going to vibe with or connect to or feel as though they have more of a hold on, that's the person you're going to be inclined to hire. But that person might just think a little bit more like you think. It doesn't make them a better teacher.
Right.
So that's why I would, and I say all the time, guys, if I hired at Metro, all the teachers would be like me. But that's not good.
No.
Right? I like how I teach. I teach how I teach. But an impressive school is going to have a diversity of style, of methodology, of connectivity, so that different kids can relate to different teachers. And here's the even better one. Some kids who don't relate can still figure out how to get the job done. Right? And so the notion of just, well, I'm going to go by my gut, which, let's be honest, is most hiring. There's where your biases lie. All of them. And you don't know you're doing it. It's not like I'm sitting down going, oh, well, the color of their skin matters, or their culture matters, or their religion. No. It's that
Unconscious
feeling in your
bias.
gut of connectivity. Right?
Yeah, well, the unconscious bias, which is it's never, well, I'd say that it's not malicious, not meant to be.
No.
It's just that automatic connection that you feel you have. Maybe you don't.
Right.
But you might feel it, right?
Yeah. When you're talking about teaching the kids, take in all the information and sort through it, that doesn't apply to just kids. And there's a lot of people, as we look at the state of our media and the people responding, that don't get that. What would you say that, like, if there are people here watching the show and they want to improve their critical thinking, what direction do you point them in? How, what are your lessons? What do you teach?
I think they just need to read. I don't even know, like, I mean, fundamentals. I know a lot of people will talk, like, let's say whatever you're passionate about, whatever you're driven, I think the key is, and what school does is it gives a structure to force us to read, which I needed, right? If you're self-driven, and you know, there was a joke in, I think, in Good Will Hunting, like, you spent $150,000 for what you could have got for $1.50 late charges at the library.
Right.
That's very true in some ways.
In some ways, yes.
I don't think some courses work as easily.
Right.
But reading and getting aware, becoming aware of the subject matters that you're passionate. So if it's economics, cool. Pick up Economics for Dummies and just start there. Just start at the basis. Read a little Smith. Read some big economic theorists. And then guess what? Online, the beauty of online, and we spend all this time on, or I spend all this time on TikTok. The beauty of online is it's unlimited. If you really want to fight about feminism, cool, go read some feminists.
Right.
Go read some political theorists. Go read just, or if you want to know what happened in World War II, like, read some of the biographies that were written in historical accounts, and understand, I think this is the key, and understand that no matter how much you read, you're only going to know a limited scope of that piece of history, right? I'd say read an overview and then read personal accounts, because we assume that the history textbook is the best, and we don't read Frederick Douglass. You know, we read American history textbook and understand what happened in the Civil War. We don't read about Frederick Douglass. We don't read from his perspective because we count it as subjective. Well, what I would argue is it's all subjective. That's
Of
okay.
course.
It's
Yeah.
all subjective.
Yeah.
The history book is pretending to be something it's not.
Right.
It's not objective.
Yes.
It's very selective. But at least Frederick Douglass says up front, this is my experience. Right? And that has value. And then find people. Look, Twitter is a bit of a cesspool, but it's also an amazing place to have discussion.
Oh, yes.
Listen to podcasts with people that, you know, talk about those particular issues, but don't ever, heaven forbid, listen to anybody and go, that's it. That's the end. It's never the end.
No.
It's obviously myself very much included. It's just a piece. It's a perspective. Go look it up. Go develop more of your thought. Read more.
And our
But
perspectives
stop
can change over time too, right?
Yes. Heaven forbid, I hope, if my perspective doesn't change over time, what that means is I haven't gotten smarter. If I haven't gotten smarter, what am I doing? Right? So 100% my perspective should change over time. It should not stay stagnant. We should get smarter every single day. And always be aware, like coming to conclusions. When people call me people are like, oh, feminism is garbage. I'm like, oh, okay. Can you tell me one feminist you've read? And what about their theory? It doesn't sit well with you. Not a single.
Nothing. Zero.
Crickets, right? But understanding, and guys, I can find a lot of, you can read a lot of feminists, especially the sort of original feminists, and I can find problems within all of it. Want to know why? Because they were only as intelligent as the time would allow. They're not. Nobody understands the world. You understand your time and your context. Right. So that time and that context had its limitations, as does ours.
Right.
So of course I could criticize feminists from, you know, let's say liberal feminists who were fighting for suffrage and excluding
from the 2023 perspective.
Sure.
Right.
Yeah, let's talk about that. But again, if we're not willing to read, then having the discussion and the debate is problematic. Now, the places where I won't really go because this is when I said education, you get it for $1.50 of late charges.
Yep.
And I'm not going to go down this road too hard because heaven forbid. When it comes to science, when it comes to, let's say, endocrinology and understanding a clinical trial and understanding listen, I feel like I'm a pretty educated person. Reading through clinical trial research makes very little sense to me. So what I'm going to do is understand my limitations, and I'm going to leave that up to the scientific community, and I am going to trust what they come up with. And that's that. That's it. You can send me all you want about clinical trials. I promise you, I'm not understanding them. That's my limitation. Yeah, so there are, for me, when I think about things like physics and biology and chemistry, those things to me, I can't pick up a book and just get it. I'm sure there's some people who can. I'm not one.
Right.
And so when it comes to those kind of things, there's always, by the way, in Ontario, you can go to any university classroom and audit it.
Right.
Any university classroom. Yep. Unless you're taking up a seat for a paying student, you're just not going to write the tests. They're not going to mark your assignments.
Yeah.
Every public education, every university, it is a public forum where anybody can sit in that classroom and learn.
You just won't get to your BA or your MA.
Right. It doesn't mean you won't learn.
Right.
Right? You want to learn calculus? Cool. Go sit in a calculus classroom. Practice.
Right.
You want, if that's your drive, right? Yeah, you want to learn about philosophy. If I could go back to university, I everybody asked what I would take. Philosophy, hands down. It is so hard. It is so hard and so all-consuming. And I think it's at the foundation of everything. I
Right?
would just take philosophy after philosophy after philosophy course.
Right. My university is like, I remember, it was like, no matter if you were in any general arts or social science, you absolutely had to have that first year intro to philosophy.
Yeah.
It was everywhere. And I remember when I was like looking for my university courses, originally I'm thinking, I'm not going to use this and I don't want to waste my time with this. So like,
The
is
best
there
course.
any degree that I don't have to take philosophy 1601? There was none.
Right.
Absolutely had to have it. Changed my life.
Yeah.
Changed my life. Oh my
100%.
God. Aristotle, thank you.
Yeah.
I understood
Fascinating.
the concept of sophistry and just, basic stupid things that really helped me. I mean, I was a debater in high school and I went to the nationals. And I mean, so critical thinking and ability to debate something I did not believe in personally at all,
Mhm.
as if I had the conviction,
Mhm.
right? Like Canada must not accept any more immigrants. I debated that one as
Mhm.
if it's like, I'm brown. And I debated that one as if I really meant it,
Well,
right? Like this,
that's what
but
it teaches
like,
you.
I don't believe it,
Mhm.
right?
Hmm.
But I got 8 minutes, and I've got to sell you on that point. That's the job here in this debate, right?
Mhm.
So here we go. And but when you get to university, and I got that Aristotelian philosophy, and you know basic things, right? It's like, oh, well, you've got big ears. Elephants have big ears, so therefore you're an elephant. Well, wait a
Mm.
minute. Okay, logically that sounds good, but wait, I
Yeah.
know you're not an
Doesn't.
elephant. So why does that argument sound reasonable when I'm breaking it down? Oh, premise, conclusion. If your premise is faulty, your conclusion necessarily will be as well. Oh, okay. So it's not. It's like, so let's not. In other words, what you learn is, don't just accept the premise. De omnibus dubitandum. Debate everything. Doubt everything.
Mhm.
Is this premise? And I see this in journalism. Then, right, when you get this journalist that takes something that somebody said and then
Mhm.
puts the mic in front of somebody else's mouth and said, somebody just said this, how do you react? Without verifying first whether or not that thing that someone said is actually true.
Great.
Therefore, giving it legitimacy, making
Mhm.
it something to which somebody should respond, rather
Mhm.
than first taking the time saying, well, wait a minute, you said this, let's go tap, 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 see if that's true. Oh, that's not true. And then go back and ask the painfully obvious follow-up question, rather than actually putting a question that has faulty premise or preemptive framing that is faulty to someone else and saying, okay, now how do you react to this? Like in a world of a 30 to 45-second soundbite, and then
There
asking
it
them,
is.
and then you need 5 minutes to explain why this is, you know, a logical fallacy or a misargumentation,
Mhm.
or all the rules, all the different things that ad hominem, appeal to emotion, just
Hmm.
all those things, generalization, cherry picking of facts, selective hearing, selective framing, selective retention, just all those things changed my life philosophy. And
And
yet
it's
you
funny.
sit there and thinking it's just this airy fairy, like,
Yeah.
this is going to serve me in real life thing. Oh my God.
2 things you learned from that. Number 1, everything is nuanced. And
Mm.
Right.
everything. Nothing is black and white. And number 2 is that there's if everything is nuanced, then understanding what you don't agree with fundamentally has validity and has
Mhm.
importance. And all of those conversations are big, long conversations. And the irony about our society today is because we have access to all this information, all of it. We have access to all the information,
All of it.
right? All of it. And so what have we done? We've made 1-minute TikTok videos.
Yeah.
Because I honestly believe, going back to our need for boxes and foundation, it's so overwhelming and there's no absolute truths. And now we know it. Now we'd like to ignore as much as we possibly can ignore
Yep.
to feel confident, stable, and as though we know what is expected in life and what's going to come next.
Yeah, it's like
Meanwhile,
I have access to all human knowledge in the palm of my hand, and I use it to watch cat videos, argue with strangers, and look at pornography. Right? That's what it's become.
don't discount the cat videos.
No,
Listen,
no,
Yeah. Palate cleansers.
no. This was a line from
yes, yeah,
Dogma.
I love that. The movie Dogma?
Yeah.
Yes, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, it's one of my favorite movies. One of my favorite. I did a podcast with Reverend Daniel, who's this amazing
Cool Rev.
Oh my God. Revan,
Love him.
he is so funny. But
Oh,
here's
yeah.
the funnier part. So we did a podcast together, and I made a joke right up front about Alanis Morissette being God. Guys, the podcast shut off 3 times. And at the end, I said, I think we've crossed the line, love. I think, obviously, we're a little close on the mark. We will no longer be talking about Atlantis because I think it might be true. 3 times. It's never happened. I've done 80 podcasts. It's never shut off. 3
Wow.
times. I had to restart it.
It was a little too hot.
I was on the mark, guys. I won't
Always
talk
too
about it anymore
hot,
in this
never
podcast.
too
You're
cold.
shutting you guys down.
I couldn't resist. Sorry.
Take a shot too hot to hold.
Okay,
Okay, come on. I have a bootleg DAT tape of that from the studio.
Going for gold?
Her first record.
Oh, poor
Wow.
Alanis. She
Really?
released pop music and they went, no, thank you. This isn't going to work for us. And then all of a sudden she's singing about irony. That's not really irony in her car.
It's a good song. A great song. But
Going
yes,
for gold? There's a whole dance video to that song, as I recall.
Yep. Love that one.
Big hair.
Oh
lots of
yeah,
hair.
the big 80s hair. Loved it.
New Jack Swing. I think she was 17 or 18 at the time.
Was
Yeah,
she?
there was no doubt I was going to be gay.
Yeah.
There's no doubt. Just by my musical choices, there was no doubt.
So go figure. I like Broadway
I
musicals.
Love Eraser, I love Bananarama. I love Samantha Fox. I love Pet Shop
So
Boys.
it's all fun.
I love Depeche
Absolutely.
Mode. I love yeah. It's like my people found me through the music.
Yeah, well, I'm a DJ. You can see by the records behind me.
And your booming voice. It's
Yeah.
fantastic.
Thank you.
Jazz aficionado. Big time.
Yeah.
If you love jazz, yeah. He's the guy.
Very cool.
Yeah. I'm thinking that we're pretty much near our time because we've gone a full 2 hours already. Thank you for your generosity.
Yeah, thank you.
But I wanted
It
to
flew by.
ask. Yeah. Pardon?
Flew by. The time just flew by.
Yeah. But I did want to ask you before we go, because we do like to leave on positive stuff, and we've talked about some heavy stuff as well. Mr. Grizzly is a big champion of Generation Z. You know, I'm a big champion of them as well. I'm seeing a world where people are just so connected, given that the internet has sort of flattened the world and everybody's aware of people in different places. There are people in Toronto that have more in common, with some young girl living in Malaysia now, like this, than they have with someone living in Newfoundland, because people can talk to each other and connect to each other. So we believe the kids are all right. But what do you see? Because you're with them. So what can you tell us about what you see in class that lets us know that the kids are all right?
Well, I think my video was pretty, I think getting out of their way. A lot of people think I'm supposed to teach. It's funny. They'll say, especially some of the more right-wing people, well, you're just indoctrinating. You're doing this, you're doing that. I'm like, you're missing the point. I'm getting out of their way. I'll teach them about history and maybe I'll mitigate some, different ways of articulating it or the language they can use in order to articulate themselves. But what I will see when a kid wants to express themselves in any way they want to express themselves and their entire 14-year-old class doesn't even blink an eye, get out of the way. I don't have to teach them anything about that. I feel as though when people think that I'm teaching and I'm shaping, what they don't quite understand is they're already caught up to me. All the things I've had to learn about diversity and equity, they already got them.
Oh, yeah.
The best thing I can do is not jam any sort of, stereotype or bigotry down their throat. So I don't fill their heads up with garbage. And giving them a space to talk. I think our big push right now, to be honest, isn't about social justice, is about mental health. And I think what the schools still haven't decided to do, because it's expensive, is really understand mental health and really push for our elementary and high school students to have consistent, easy access to figure out themselves and figure out their brain. And if we did that, by drug problems, by alcohol problems, by physical health and eating disorder, all of these things that we see plaguing our society would evaporate if we did what we pay lip service to, which is make sure those kids can figure out themselves, their identity, feel supported, and deal with whatever is going on in their head. And here's the real key: protect them from whatever could be infiltrating or limiting that mental health. But that's going to cost money. I advocate for a long time. I think that in every school, we should have a school psychologist that is there 24/7, that is a part of the school per X amount of students. I don't know what that would work out to be. Period. They don't come and go. They're not there on Thursday. No. They're there. They are there and as important, if not more important, than every other class that happens at that school. The amount of time I play at psychologist is silly. Because the first thing I'll say is I don't have the skill set. Then we get parents and then we get professional help, but the kids feel comfortable. They feel safe.
Right.
So we need to create an environment in elementary and high school where they feel comfortable, where they feel safe, where maybe something going on at home, they get to talk about. Where whatever's going on in school, they get to talk about. All of those things.
Snowy Monday.
Right?
It's Ontario March.
So we hear you playing in the background there, Douglas.
I don't think that's me.
Oh, that's me.
Yeah,
Sorry.
what's going on?
My apologies. I don't know how that happened. Just give me a sec here.
Snowy Monday, though.
I got my other computer because I'm working right now.
There we go.
And there we go. Somehow it connected to a meeting, and there we go. Connected to a meeting, and it's starting to talk in the background. So my apologies.
All right.
I got one more video. It's your pinned one that I'd like on your Twitter feed that I'd like to play, Mr. Grizzly.
Oh.
I love this one.
Oh my gosh, stop your whining and do your job. You know what, hon? I'm very happy you brought this up. I might seem agitated, but I'm not really agitated because I think it's about time we spoke about what are teachers' jobs, right? And I know you probably don't have time to read the Education Act. It's too hard, right? Or peruse a contract that a teacher signs that dictates what they are getting paid for and what they are contractually obligated to do. You don't want to do any of that, but don't worry. I'm here for you, hun. I'm here to educate you for free. Because you know what? That's really what you want out of teachers, right, hun? So when it comes to teaching, all of the extracurriculars, love, it's right in the name. It says extra. All the extracurriculars we do for free already, right? The chess team I run, free. The debating team I run, free. The basketball team, the volleyball team, the rugby team, free. The trips that I have taken, 15, 16, 20 kids to Tanzania, to Ecuador, to New York, to DC, free. All of this is my time, some of my money, by the way, and I get absolutely no compensation whatsoever. And these extracurriculars, by the by, usually are more stressful, take up more organization, and take up a lot more energy than sitting in the classroom and teaching math or teaching history every single day. Yet teachers have been doing this forever. That's our problem. And you know what? That's on us. It's on us that we've been doing it for free for so long. And what you're getting mad at is we're at a point where if you don't pay teachers what they're worth, when you don't give them healthy, amazing work conditions in order to mold young minds and do their job properly, then you're going to feel a pushback. And you know what, hon? You should. You should feel a pushback. Because when we don't treat teachers right, your kids don't get educated right. And all you're talking about here is why somebody doesn't want to coach basketball and spend 10 weekends out of a, 3-month period in a gymnasium without their family, without getting paid, without getting any sort of compensation. And then they get to come home to you complaining about them doing their jobs. Please, before you come at me with this, read, and if you can't read, have somebody read it to you.
Boom.
That's what we call a mic drop.
Sometimes the tone of my voice, I'm just like, okay, just talk a little quieter.
I love the shirt you're wearing in that. It had an Elvis vibe to it.
My mom would be very happy.
That's just amazing.
The problem, it's so funny. So I spoke about that in the first person. Now it's the funny part is I don't work in the public board. So people started coming at me and I'm like, listen, think of me as the symbol of a teacher rather than, because I don't teach in the public system. So when I get paid, my contract looks different. But teachers have been doing this. I remember my volleyball coach, 9 weekends out of 12, we are on volleyball tournaments.
Yep.
9 weekends.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's insane to me when you think about that time and you think about what's necessary and needed. And do I think extracurriculars are important? Of course I do. Of course I do. You can't keep uploading more and more kids in a classroom with more and more divergent needs, with more and more learning systems and IEPs and blah, 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 and then expect teachers to have the capacity, the energy to then run 7 extracurricular clubs. You know what I mean?
Right.
You can't. You increase their workload, and then you wonder why they can't do what they've always done. Well, it's pretty simple. And all those extracurriculars, again, we can solve it right away. Pay them.
Mm-hmm.
Pay them. And then the teachers that don't, because everybody knows the teachers that don't do any of that, cool. They don't get paid as much.
Right.
It's real simple. It is quite simple. Now, would the unions have a problem with this? Probably. There would have to be a workaround, but I think the workaround is pretty simplistic. I think contractually, the union protects teachers and what they do in the classroom, and you could have a separate work agreement, a separate contract for any extracurricular that you do that is outside of your contractually obligated teaching times.
Right.
And create it. But nobody wants to do that because all of a sudden education would double in cost. And it wouldn't.
Yep. And, I remember a bunch of years ago, I've talked about this before, somebody told me about 10 or 11 years ago that if everybody in the province of Ontario paid another $100 per year in taxes, we could fully fund post-secondary education. And I was like, who do I make the check out? I don't know. Yeah. This is about 10 or 12 years ago. Right. And I'm like, who do I make the check out to right now? I'll make it out for $200. Because if we can fully fund post-secondary education, we should be doing it. Because an educated nation, and Canada is one of the most educated nations in the world, BT dubs, for those of you watching who aren't aware of this, but it's getting more and more difficult to get that post-secondary education because of the costs involved. I went to college when I was, back in 1998. So I was 30 years old when I went back to school. And I was working full time and going to school 3 nights a week for 2 years to get a piece of paper that says that I do exactly what I do. Go figure, one of these rare people who works in the field that I studied. But it wasn't like when I graduated high school, I'm 54 years old. I'll be 55 in July. I still don't know what I want to do with my life. So being able to go back to school to study without having to worry about the financial pressures means I could actually pursue something that I would really be interested in, as opposed to, well, I'll do this because I can earn a living at it, which is effectively what I did. I did it because I could earn a living at it. And what I always wanted to do is what I'm doing right here, right now, in this very moment. This is what I always wanted to do, but I saw no practical pathway to get there. Well, now in the 21st century, we can do this like we're doing. It's different.
Yeah.
But it would have maybe saved me time years ago if I could have gone into a broadcast program without having to go worry about my parents being able to afford it, because I certainly couldn't, you know.
Yeah.
So
I think that's super important, but instead it's so funny. You're advocating an extra $100. Meanwhile, we have politicians and pundits advocating that university's useless. Don't bother.
Right.
Yeah.
Why do you think
And
they're doing that?
Actually,
you just
Doing that so
you
they
just
don't have to deal with the cost of education. They're undervaluing education because they want people to be undereducated. They want people now going in the trades is a beautiful thing. If you can go into a trade, have at it. If you have a talent for it or a passion for it, have at it. But they're looking for ways to abdicate responsibility for educating its population so they
Right.
don't have to pay for it. Period.
that's what
Right.
it is.
Period.
And we just saw it last week. You can start working full time as an apprentice
Oh my
after grade 11.
after grade 11. I'm like,
Nice.
This is something I want your opinion on, actually. Sorry, I thought the last question was the last question, but you brought it up. Totally forgot about that. Our main question with that was, okay, that's fine. There's nothing wrong with creating a path for people who already know they want to go in the trades, but what are they now no longer learning
Look,
that they
guys,
had to learn from grade
we
12
had a
in order
path.
to do that?
The Ontario government shut them down.
Right.
Sir
That's what
Robert
I was wondering.
Gordon in Ontario, and it's in Scarborough, was one of the coolest technical schools I've ever seen in my entire life. They had this amazing tech wing with cars and automotive stuff, and then they had like a beauty wing, and then they had a food cure, like a chef kind of thing.
Right.
It was amazing. And what do we do with that? We shut it down. We shut it down because it's expensive and we don't want to run it. And in that particular area, it was a very hard, low socioeconomic area, so that there were other issues that went. So all of the costs associated with it, all the Ontario government's trying to do is figure out how to download those costs to the public's, like to the private sector. So they're going to train, but you're going to have kids that are 16, 17 years old that aren't getting an education. Like if you're going to go into, I don't know, to be an electrician, amazing. You want to know what else you should learn? Business school.
Right? Accounting?
Agreed.
Basic
But so
accounting?
it's all about money, and it makes it sound like they're this enlightened. No. You're not enlightened because you would have kept those schools open. You would have kept those schools open because there's a reason a 16 and 17-year-old shouldn't be in the workforce yet. And if it's not a reason, then we need to change the age of consent and the age of adulthood. Because if you're telling me a 16 and 17-year-old can go get a job and decide the rest of their life now, well, then we need to talk about why they have to wait to 18 to vote.
Yes.
But it's all about money. It's all about the schools we used to have that served a purpose. They want to shut down because they're expensive, and sometimes they're filled with other issues. Offload that to the private industry, and then claim as though they're doing a great thing, right? I think look, access to all of those trades, that's great. Have a school for it. Have schools for it. Most schools used to be well-rounded facilities. You would have, my school had a tech wing. I didn't do any of it. I should have, because heaven forbid, if I knew how to fix my own car, I'd be a freaking genius. But you had all the options. So kids, and this is the brilliant part, we could understand the interconnectivity of all of the courses we take and how it makes us a better adult, a better employee, and possess more transferable skills. So, heaven help us, when job A goes away, we have transferable skills that can lead us to job B, C, and D.
Right.
But if we're just going to train kids to do one thing, and we're going to let them decide that in grade 10, what kind of limits, right?
Yeah.
I think there should be, to be honest, I'd go the exact opposite way. Now, my students hate this idea, by the way. I would start making high school longer. I missed grade 13.
Right.
But I would start making kids take a more well-rounded, well-versed academic platform. So they were no longer just social science kids, just arts kids, just science kids. I think there's a real flaw in that. And there's a real flaw in telling a kid or telling anybody that you're only going to do it if you get a good mark in it, that there's no value in getting better at it or still including it in your life. How dare we cancel the arts out of every kid's life after grade 9 if they can't draw?
Right.
What kind
And
of
drawing
broken,
is the only one that's offered out of all the
what kind
arts.
of broken
Nobody's playing
society?
instruments anymore.
No music. If I suck at music, all of it. But you know what? I understand that a musical intelligence and the musical aspect of our brain, what it taps into has value and then connects to other things. If I'm not good at math, that's fine, but it doesn't mean we just stop taking it.
Mhm.
There should be
And it-
lots of different math, right? Anyways, I
but
mean,
you get
and
it
I
in
feel that way
different
across.
ways, right? Because I was a dancer, right? I
Mm,
have that musical intelligence.
right.
There's math in dance.
Oh, look,
Music
math
is
and
math.
the arts are more interconnected than anybody ever talks about.
Right.
My uncle is an amazing artist. He teaches physics. They are usually very, very connected because most people don't understand, but math is a creative process.
Mhm.
Yep.
It to do it right.
Right.
Do it like I do it, and I memorize formulas and I got by. That's not the creative process, but that's because I wasn't doing it right.
Right.
Math requires spatial intelligence and creativity of thought that we don't teach kids or give space to kids. We ask them to sit down and memorize these 10 formulas and this,
That's not learning.
periodic
That's
table.
memorization. That's memorization. That's not learning.
There we go. And meanwhile, math is creative. And the time when most kids decided they weren't good at math is when they didn't understand it in grade 5, because the teacher that teaches you grade 5 math isn't a math teacher. They took history and English in university, yet they think that our system has been set up so they're going to teach math. I understand grade 5 math. It doesn't mean I should teach it, because I'm going to teach it in a superficial way, the way that I understand grade 5 math, not the way a mathematician understands math. Think about think about if we created, you want to know why we're far behind in math and like we're falling? Because we treat kids like they're idiots, problem number 1. And number 2, we don't specialize our teachers to do something as incredibly important as foundational math. That's where the smartest mathematician should be. Teaching kids, and that's why most adults don't get, in the States, you'll talk about like core math or like new math or whatever, and their heads are going to explode, because it's this creative way of looking at math that my generation goes, what are you talking about? What is smarter and better? We just don't have this teaching staff to do it because we've decided the English teacher can teach grade 5 math.
Yeah.
Probably not the best idea.
No, of course not. But again, it's all about money.
Yeah.
You want a mathematician teaching grade 5? You're going to have to pay them.
Right. And what you mentioned about the people that are going to tech, also like taking some law or some business, but as artists as well, it's the same thing, right? When I went to university, my options were accounting, and and I took grade 11 law and grade 13 law because I keep on hearing all those stories, right? Like TLC was big when I was a kid.
There we go.
And they went bankrupt because their agent completely screwed them. They had no money. Crazy Sexy Cool, one of the biggest albums ever.
Yeah.
40 million copies, and they had nothing to show for it. 50 grand is what each one of them got at the end of the year.
It's insane.
Unbelievable.
Right?
But that's the same with athletes and actors, right? Know the business. Right. You want to be an artist. That's beautiful. That's amazing. You want to be an athlete. You're great at throwing a ball real hard. Cool.
But you're going to be you incorporated.
Yes. Figure it out. Or else somebody will figure it out for you, and it never works out.
No, it doesn't.
They figure it out to slide it into their bank account.
Right. Joanna, thank you.
Oh,
thank you for your
guys.
time.
So much fun.
Oh my God.
I had a blast.
This is amazing.
Fantastic.
Oh, it's everything I'd hoped it would be and more.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much for inviting me. I appreciate it. You guys were amazing. I'll come back anytime you want me.
And if you've got anything to say and you feel you need a platform, just call on us. And
thank you so much.
Here.
Fantastic. Well, you guys have a great week.
All right.
You too.
Thank you for all you do. Thanks.
Take care.
Bye, guys.
Oh my God, she's amazing. I love her.
Oh yeah. Yeah, better than I expected. It's like you go in with expectations, so I try and lower my expectations so that I don't want to be let down. Way beyond my expectations.
I did not do that this time. I've been.
Oh, you went in sky high and stayed there.
Buzzing. Yes, ever since we got the yes, I've been buzzing. I just
Well,
had a
it's
feeling.
one of those ones where I've been trying to, and I think it's because of what I've been going through emotionally, which is why I'm like, I'll lower my expectations. Like you can
Mm,
tell I'm energized right now, right?
right,
I'm energized, and yet I've been in bed all weekend because I've been exhausted. So yeah, I get my energy from other people, number one, but when you have somebody as amazing, articulate, intelligent, focused, and is willing to say, I don't know about this, I don't know about that, which is what I really appreciate,
right,
because we all have our limitations, and we should be able to discuss them in an open and free forum to say, I don't know, that's not my area of expertise, I want to get better at it, and here's how I can, or maybe I can't. And that's, I'm
right.
speaking mostly about myself here. But just such an amazing guest, an amazing person, and God, I hope we can get her back again sometime soon.
Oh, well, yeah, definitely. That's no question. I mean, if she's willing to come, we will have her. Because it's just so nice to speak to people who, even though they have the humility to admit they don't know everything, they
Hmm.
have clarity.
Oh yes. Yeah.
There's clarity of purpose, clarity of direction, clarity of thought. Clear on the values. Trying to be clarity on what is consistent.
Hmm. Hmm.
When you have your values and then behaviors that are consistent with them, and it's just and words that match them, and it's just like I said, I'm buzzing, I'm vibrating, I'm very, very happy. I'm glad we did this. And so yeah, once again, thank you, Joanna. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you.
At Unlearn16 tweet on Twitter.
Yes.
And check out the YouTube. It's youtube.com/ at Unlearn16 class in session.
Yes. Class in session.
Class is in session 73 is the
Yes.
specific. I'll put it in the link.
Okay, great. Mr. Grizzly, do we have a show?
We do, sir. We do.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, kids, that's the end of this episode of the Daily Beaver podcast. I guess technically we had a live on-air interview project episode more than a bite. So I think I'm going to call. I think I'm going to call it. I think I'm going to label it as an interview episode when we put it on.
Mhm.
We hope that you loved listening to this because we love making this for you. We really loved making this for you. This was a treat.
It
A
absolutely
total
was.
treat. This was not work. This was a treat. Remember that sharing is caring and word of mouth is priceless. Please let everybody in your circle of influence know about us because, there are people probably who look up to you for your opinion. There may be
Indeed.
the trendsetter in your circle. You never know. So please let them know. Because democracy is something that you do, please, again, we're going to stick with it. Take the time to write your MP, your MPP, your senators, media outlets. Let them know. Let them know that you haven't forgotten yet. You haven't forgotten. You want more details. You just do. And also, if you can, please consider joining us as a friend of Rosie. Colleen, Constance. I've got Colleen Jones on my mind because I've been watching curling all weekend. Our friend Constance, Kit Constance, was on the show last week and telling us about the Rosie Project. We're helping supply a very, very brave and hardworking woman in Kenya with a basic income who's taking care of 4 people. So, and there are donations and commitments and pledges that have come in. I've asked Connie to keep track of them so that we can give you an update on a total as it comes in. But for those of you who are joining in, thank you so much. We really appreciate it. If you like this podcast, you can find us on Crier Media Network as well as all Beaver Grizzly friendly platforms. Stars and reviews are, of course, greatly appreciated. So, be generous and feel free. We love to hear from you. Reach us on our Facebook page. That's where we have our blog and, longer stuff, longer text. So if you want to follow that, and there's a nice community there, that's on our Facebook page. If you go to our Twitter feed, that's at True Eager, or if you want to write to us by email, truenortheagerbeaver@gmail.com. Or if you happen to be listening to us on our True North Eager Beaver Media Incorporated YouTube channel, there's a comment section there. So, smash the button, as Elaine says, subscribe, and let us know what you think. We read everything. If you wish to make sure that you get every single podcast, including our audio exclusives, and we have one out right now for our flagship episode number 34 on the North American Leaders Summit, then you can go to our Podpage site, podpage.com/True North Eager Beaver with a hyphen between each one of those words. And once we have something fresh off the bandwidth, we will send it straight to you and you will not miss a thing. We can't do this without you or your generous support. So if you feel that we've had a particularly good show today, if you are very happy with the guests that we've curated for you, and if you're watching, well, you can scan that QR code right above Mr. Grizzly's head there, and that will bring you to our tip jar. And if you are listening, well, then you can take those beautiful digits on those beautiful hands of yours and type a few keys and go to our coffee page. That's coffee, ko-fi.com/eagerbeaver. That's ko-fi for coffee.com/eagerbeaver, all in one word, lowercase. And that will bring you to our tip jar where you can buy Mr. Grizzly a pint of Guinness or me a mug of hot chocolate, because I am what I drink, honeys. All right. And finally, we do have that smooth Eager Beaver merch, but not right now because our site is still down. I'm wondering if that has something to do with that Silicon Valley Bank thing, because apparently there's a lot of merchant sites that went down as a result of what's going on there.
No, nothing to do with that.
No, nothing to do with that. All right. Well, there you go. So it's just our thing then. But when the site is up and you go back there, that's where you will go to get yourself some fabulous. So, just put it on your list what it is that you want to get. From the Beaver Lodge, this is your Eager Beaver saying, until next time, dear kids, it can be a tough world out there, so please be kind to and gentle with yourself. Mr. Grizzly, as always, we are thirsty for your words of wisdom.
I had to quench my thirst with some caffeine. Words of wisdom. Days like today, where it's a Monday and I'm feeling jet lagged, and not just because of the brain thing, but because of the whole hour changeover. This is always a tough day. It's always a tough day of the week emotionally for everybody. And you might not realize that you're feeling off. You're feeling a little out of sorts. And it does have to do with the time change. This is what jet lag feels like. So try and pay a little bit of extra careful attention today to how you talk to and treat others around you, because your fuse might be a little bit shorter today. I'm super conscious of it because I'm very tired. So just be a little bit kinder today. If you encounter somebody who rubs you the wrong way, try and cut them some slack, because they're probably going through something too.
Mm-hmm. And Kit, Miss Sarika, yes, you slept in. Good for you. Don't worry that you missed the show live. You'll be able to see it again very, very soon. Basically, as soon as we go off air, it's up there on YouTube, and you can start watching it again. So please, we're like, as we keep on saying, we don't care when it is you come, so long as you arrive.
Exactly.
Special thank you to the kits who have been really knocking it out of the park with regard to our podcast and putting us on the charts. Mr. Grizzly, if you will put it up there. We are on a stretch of 5 days in a row. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Started at 246, 235, 196, 138, and 135. It's the highest that we've been in the last month, and it's the first time we hit 5 days in a row, and our record is 6. So, yay, we might be breaking our record. So, thank you so much, kids. Thank you so much, kids. All right, Mr. Grizzly, please roll them credits.
Absolutely, positively. Happy to do so.
You are listening to a True North Eager Beaver media podcast. The True North Eager Beaver podcasts are proudly brought to you by our founding sponsors, the Miss V Mysteries from Corvid Moon Publishing, your source for science fiction, fantasy, and cozy mysteries featuring a broad diversity of characters. CanadianTarot.com, your uniquely Canadian online eclectic tarot community and forum, and the Peppermaster, hot pepper sauces made from fresh farm ingredients to thrill your taste buds and expand your mind. Oh boy, that picked up at the end.
Yeah, it sped up, didn't it? I didn't do it. It just, I'm like, why did it go faster?
I just had this rhythm going, and it was like, ooh, Charleston.
You got to speed up to keep in touch. So remember, kids, this Saturday, March 18th. Welcome to the place where everyone knows your name, where everyone's your friend, where good times are had by all. Sit back, relax, pour yourself a beverage and enjoy our company. I know we'll certainly enjoy yours. Welcome to the True North Eager Beaver Pubcast. Once a month, we gather at the Lieutenant's Pump at 361 Elgin Street in downtown Ottawa, Canada's capital city, bringing you joy and happiness all day long.
All right, kids. And tomorrow when you see me, I might have a slightly new look.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
All right.
Little
I'll look
teaser.
forward to that. See you soon.
See ya.